Chapter 681. Immortal Realm Furnace, Supreme Return, Refining the Immortal Realm Again. The Immortal Realm consists of 36 layers of heaven, with the first being Huangzong Heaven and the 36th being Deluo Heaven. The density of immortal power increases and the area decreases with each layer upward, and yet, even the Deluo Heaven is roughly the size of hundreds of worlds. It's then not hard to imagine the enormity of the Immortality Realm. Any other world pales in comparison to the Immortal Realm, appearing much like tiny specks of sand. In the 10,000 realms, the Immortal Realm stands as a colossal Goliath, a source of immortal beings' arrogance. Now, the once magnificent Immortal Realm is shattered, even more devastated than the worlds that were already destroyed. The current state of Immortal Realm is due to the two key figures in this epic battle. The respected God Hidden possesses countless divine skills, some seen by Zhong Li, some heard of, and some not known to him, lost for millions of years. Zhong Li's counter-strategy was simple and brutish, crushing any techniques thrown at him with a single blow. So far, he has broken all of respected God Hidden's moves, never needing more than one punch. The three mixed-origin primordial immortals exchanged a look, seeing the shock in each other's eyes. Even a layman could see by now that the chances of respected God Hidden winning were slim to none. Despite their wide knowledge and experience, they had never seen or heard of a being like Zhong Li. They dared not even dream of such a thing. How could a being exist that transcended the heavenly Tao? How did he achieve this? It's a shame that we are not Tao ancestors, we are not proficient in aura watching Tao. Otherwise, we could have determined his level of cultivation by watching his aura. The aura watching Tao is an extremely difficult to master strategy, created by Tao ancestors. It's tricky to learn, master, and even more challenging to integrate, and to scrutinize Zhong Li's level of existence, one needs to have a complete mastery of aura watching Tao. So far, there are only two who have completely mastered it, Tao Ancestor and respected God Hidden. Splat! The respected God Hidden took another blow from Zhong Li, vomiting a mouthful of blood. His chest was pierced, his stomach torn open, and his bone structure exposed. The respected God Hidden no longer appeared as an aloof perfect deity but rather as a ghastly ghost, crawling out of hell, fear-inducing. Anyone who saw him would not perceive him as beautiful as the heavenly Tao. You are strong, but sadly, I'm stronger. Zhong Li retrieved his punch emotionlessly. When he returned to the Immortal Realm, he already knew that the outcome had been decided, and respected God Hidden could not win against him. It's not arrogance. It's a fact. You pushed me to this. The respected God Hidden, with some teeth shattered, his words barely audible. Even the Transcendence Tribulation stage can regenerate from a drop of blood, let alone him, the heavenly Tao. But he neither had the time nor the chance. Zhong Li's onslaught was ferocious, giving him no opportunity to recover. And he didn't need to recover. While he may have taken the form of a human, his body is made of Tao. Fatal injuries to humans pose no threat to him. But he couldn't bear such a humiliating battle. Open the furnace, start alchemy. Supreme Guiyuan formation. The Immortal Realm was boiling like a cauldron, space was becoming unstable, yin and yang collide, burning the Immortal Realm. Stars shifted, oceans and lands reshaped, galaxies evaporated, everything was transforming. The 36 celestial heavens resonated and moaned, as though they couldn't bear these rapid changes. The Immortal Realm was like a large furnace, with all the immortals turned into firewood, their immortal power the fuel, igniting a raging fire. The Golden K Cloud Palace, Mi Luo Palace, Moon Palace, Lingxiao Palace, Jade Pool Immortal Palaces were morphed into glass, sparkling and transparent. But this state lasted less than a breath before they were totally obliterated by the scorching fire, not even ashes were left. Earth immortal creatures screamed in pain, rolling on the ground and slamming into the boundary walls, preferring to die from impact rather than perish in the fire. Large groups of immortals wailed, desperate to counter the catastrophe with every trick and divine skill in their arsenal. The golden immortals even chose to blow up the 3 flowers on the top of their heads, praying for survival. But in the face of this divine disaster, no matter how powerful their divine skills, it was all in vain. Even Du Yi, who had hidden his cultivation in order to surprise everyone among the golden immortals, couldn't escape this disaster. Only the 3 mixed origin primordial immortals survived the disaster through understanding the 9 major laws. The Immortal Realm Furnace, Supreme Guiyuan, refines the Immortal Realm. This is the pinnacle of alchemy Tao and formation, only existing in theory, never set by anyone. Buddha, panting heavily, was exhausted from dealing with the calamity. The other 2 were not faring any better. Even the Tao Ancestor admitted he couldn't do this. It's equivalent to creating a new immortal realm altogether, something that the usual creation can't compete with. The sage of Confucianism's face was as gloomy as water. In essence, this is a manifestation of the law of the jungle, where immortals cultivate for tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, or millions of years, achieving the status of heavenly immortals and golden immortals, and are revered in the outside world as supreme and sacred. But compared to the respected God hidden, they are weak. And the weak can only be killed and devoured by the strong. The sage of Confucianism's main study was on the law of the jungle. The respected God hidden is throwing caution to the wind in this gamble. The respected God hidden, being the heavenly law of the immortal realm, the importance of the immortal realm goes without saying. He would even take the immortal realm with him if he fled. However, in the face of Zhang Li's unconquerable strength, the respected God hidden chose to give up everything, the immortal realm, immortal power, immortals. He didn't want any of these anymore. All for the sake of defeating Zhang Li. With the immortal realm's immortal power consumed and the chaos fog covering the place, a strand of fog was as heavy as 1,000 pounds. The golden dawn broke through the chaos, and the respected God hidden emerged with the light, mysterious and daunting, blinding to the naked eye. The chaos of the immortal realm was like a chicken's egg, with the respected God hidden formed within. Thunder, fire of tribulation, primal earth, initial wind, chaos water. Legend has it that these were the original forms of matter. Although the respected God hidden still had a human form, it was no longer a flesh body, but composed of these original materials. The respected God hidden no longer used weapons or divine skills. He himself was the most powerful weapon and possessed the strongest divine skills. He indeed has the guts. Zhang Li chuckled and shattered the respected God hidden with a punch. The body of the respected God hidden scattered into several parts, a body of thunder, a body of the tribulation fire, a body of primal earth. Each one's aura fluctuation was not inferior to the original respected God hidden. One body cannot display all my power, so I split multiple bodies, the respected God hidden sneered. He simply refused to believe that Zhang Li could still defeat him in this state. Since you are so forthright, let me not hide anything. It's time to use some real skills. Zhang Li also laughed, giving the respected God hidden a bad premonition. Establishment of the Three Pure Land. 4 Zhang Li appeared. The respected God hidden was unconcerned, just 4. Sowing beans into soldiers. The 4 Zhang Li performed the technique of sowing beans into soldiers, transforming into even more of themselves. Establishment of the Three Pure Land. Sowing beans into soldiers. Establishment of the Three Pure Land. Sowing beans into soldiers. More and more Zhang Li appeared, surrounding the respected God hidden. The respected God hidden swallowed nervously. Be careful, I'm only throwing one punch, the Zhang Li announced in unison. Zhang Li swung a world-ending punch, shattering and then reviving the respected God hidden countless times, until finally, there was only one more punch required to obliterate him completely. Thud, the respected God hidden fell to the ground. Countless Zhang Li disappeared, and only one Zhang Li was left, looking down at the respected God hidden. Heaven, are you ready to witness the end of the heavenly Tao? Zhang Li wound up his fist, preparing to deliver the final punch. Wait, you can't kill me. The moment you kill me, this world will no longer be able to rebirth from the rule of destruction. Destroying the 10,000 realms is the only way to save the world. The respected God hidden yelled out. Zhang Li's punch stopped at the tip of the respected God hidden's nose. Chapter 682. Speak, give me a reason not to kill you. Feeling the touch of a fist against his nose, the respected God hidden felt his heart almost leap from his chest, which was soon replaced by the joy of a narrow escape. The divination has not been mistaken. This man is a saint who takes the stability of the world as his mission. He will never allow the destruction of the 10,000 realms. If he wants to save 10,000 realms, then I won't die. Being the heavenly Tao, the more worlds I rule, the stronger I become. Why should I dig my own grave and let the immortal realm destroy the 10,000 realms? All actions were out of necessity. Zhang Li raised his eyebrow. The respected God hidden wouldn't destroy the world for no reason. Do you know how I came to be? The respected God hidden counter-questioned. People kept praying to you, the heavenly Tao, to open your eyes. Therefore, the heavenly Tao grew sentient and you came to being. Zhang Li questioned uncertainly, regurgitating what Tao ancestor had once told the long-lasting immortal elder, who later relayed it to him. Right, it is a ridiculous reason, right? My true body is the heavenly Tao, the embryonic form of the heavenly Tao in your 9 provinces. Oh, you folks refer to that thing as the Earth's energy. Whether it's the heavenly Tao or Earth's energy, both are born the same way, from the collective subconscious of all beings. Even your crossing over was due to the collective will of all beings. Zhongli pondered for a moment and said, "Are you trying to say that collective subconscious can be very scary?" The respected God Hidden shook his head. "No, what I want to say is not that the collective subconscious is scary, but that its unification is." "What's the difference?" Zhongli didn't understand the respected God Hidden's point. The respected God Hidden solemnly shook his head. "The difference is enormous. Let's consider it from another perspective. If unified subconscious can give birth to the heavenly Tao and find you, the Savior, what is unified subconscious? Unified intent is the unity of purpose, something people often refer to as hearts striving for a common goal. So, if there's only one person left in the world, wouldn't all their thoughts be categorized as unified intent?" As these words fell, Zhongli's pupils shrank in realization. He had never thought about it like that before. Yes, if there's only one person left in the world, all their thoughts would represent unified intent, and they could do whatever they want. Do you need proof? What evidence do you have to support this? Despite the fact that there seemed to be some truth to what the respected God Hidden was saying, Zhongli wasn't prepared to fully believe it. What it said is true. The saints, Buddha, and the immortal emperor arrived at the center of the battlefield. All the immortal beings in the chaotic array knew about what the respected God Hidden had disclosed, except the Queen Mother of the Earth. They looked at Zhongli with complex expressions. Zhongli's last move had completely subverted their understanding, and judging from his effortless demeanor, that was not the full extent of his strength. How frightening! Zhongli glanced at the saint, who nodded. Zhongli knew that the saint had always resisted the heavenly Tao. If the saint said so, then it must be true. If you still refuse to believe, you can ask the Tao ancestor which resides within Wuji, the respected God Hidden suggested. It was telling the truth and had no fear of Zhongli verifying. You can continue. The respected God Hidden continued, before the birth of the 10,000 realms, there was only one being in the world, Taichu. As the only conscious entity, whatever Taichu desired, it was materialized. Anything, just by deploying a thought could be achieved. Taichu created the 9 laws of space, time, possibility, and others. These are the ultimate laws, fundamental laws. They are the foundation of how the world operates. Because of this, the concept of space exists, which is where we reside. The concept of time came to be, and a timeline was born, along with the confluence of possibilities, creating the cycle of life, the path of immortality and even destruction. Then Taichu created numerous entities, the immortal realm, the 10,000 realms, and so forth. This is the real act of creation. The immortal realm was the first world created by Taichu. And the last entity Taichu created was man. When the second person appeared in the world, and a second thought was formed, Taichu lost the power of creation, because the thoughts of one person will never be completely unified with another's. Then came the third person, the fourth person, the fifth person. Countless beings with consciousness appeared, and that led to the flourishing 10,000 realms we see today. Where is Taichu now? Taichu is long dead. Taichu did not grant itself infinite life or immortality. After the world was created, it died not long after. The respected God Hidden looked at Zhongli and solemnly said, "At first, when I saw that you were beyond the normal rules, I thought you were Taichu reincarnated. But upon giving it a second thought, Taichu was just the first conscious being capable of creating. It isn't as strong as you. Even if it reincarnated, it would have to abide by the rules. Also, it's uncertain whether Taichu has actually reincarnated or if it has truly perished. Your strength is unprecedented. Taichu created only one world, but due to the existence of the rule of possibilities, the decisions made by humans, and the random happenings of things, parallel worlds were born. Whether it's this world, parallel worlds, the timelines, or the confluence of possibilities, they are all subjected to the rule of destruction. The observer's world named the rule of destruction as the black tide. I will call it the same for ease of your understanding. Now, the black tide has completely devoured the confluence of possibilities. There are no living beings and no dead ones either, only the black tide. Think about it, in the confluence of possibilities, the potential of people maximizes. Everyone there is a deity, immensely powerful. To become a deity for the beings there is easy. Heavenly immortals, golden immortals, the chaotic absolute immortal, there are too many to count, and therefore the heavenly Tao birth there is the strongest. Despite this, the confluence of possibilities was swallowed up by the black tide, rendering all resistance futile. The black tide took over the confluence of possibilities, converting the possibility of spreading into an inevitable spread. Its next step, to devour other worlds. I can communicate with the heavenly Tao of parallel worlds. As far as I know, hundreds of parallel worlds have already been devoured. Having said this, the respected God Hidden felt heavy in his heart. The heavenly Tao of parallel worlds isn't much different than his own. If the black tide can devour other heavenly Tao beings, it could also devour him. When faced with the black tide, when faced with the rule of destruction, no one can do anything. Now the only thing left to do is to pray. Pray for the black tide to devour other parallel worlds, and for us to become the only remaining world. Once the black tide comes to our world, we must ensure that I am the last one to be devoured. In that scenario, I would become the sole survivor of all worlds and my thoughts would be the only ones. At that moment, I would change the 9 major rules to 8, eliminating the rule of destruction. The black tide would naturally retreat. Afterwards, using my intent, I would resurrect our world. Chapter 683, The Only Way. Zhang Li's existence overturned the understanding of the respected God hidden in 3 mixed Yuan Wuji immortals. The words of the respected God hidden also overturned Zhang Li's thoughts. Before, Zhang Li only knew that the 10,000 realms were facing a great catastrophe, and the immortal realm was no exception. The immortal realm chose to destroy the world in advance in order to resist the disaster, and then reshape the world. Later, he learned about the existence of the black tide from the observer's world, knew the truth of the catastrophe, but still couldn't figure out why Heavenly Tao wanted to destroy the world, and how to reshape the world. What is the connection between the destruction of the world and the reshaping of the world? Now, he finally understands. That's how it is. When I first became conscious, Tao Ancestor thought I was born of the thoughts of living beings, and didn't understand why I wanted to destroy the world. This is very easy to understand. My actions are based on the needs of the living beings. Survival is the first need of a living being. In the face of the black tide, survival itself has become a problem. What I need to do is actually to save the world and give the living beings the right to survive. Therefore, after I became conscious, I chose to destroy the 10,000 realms, ensuring that I would have the last thought, the only thought. I told the immortals part of the truth. After all, if I told them all the truth, someone might betray me and become the last person to survive. The respected God hidden glanced at the immortal emperor, who dared not meet his gaze and turned his head away. The immortal emperor's desire for power usurping is to go against the heavens and live to the end, to create his own world. Tao Ancestor and the Confucian saint have the kindness of women, thinking that living beings should not die, and there may be other solutions. I asked Tao Ancestor what the solution was, but he said he didn't know. The respected God hidden sneered, it was disgusting to pretend to be a good person without being able to come up with a solution. The Confucian saint lowered his head in shame. His conflict with the Buddha lay in this. He also thought there was another solution, but he didn't know what it was. I think you're doing it wrong, but I can't think of any other way. That's a very unreasonable act. So I killed the Tao Ancestor. He was in the way. Zhang Li remembered the words that Hutu Huangqi had told him, saying that after Tao Ancestor died, he felt that Heavenly Tao might be right and that he himself was a hypocrite. Tao Ancestor also knew about the black tide, and the reason he didn't tell Hutu Huangqi was probably because he was afraid that Hutu Huangqi would agree with Heavenly Tao's point of view, help destroy the world, or worry that Hutu Huangqi would have selfish thoughts and become the last person. Many previous doubts can now be explained. In order to ensure that I am the only thought, I let the immortal realm take action to destroy the 10,000 realms, to destroy the underworld, and in the end, the immortals commit suicide, and I am the only one left. But destroying the 10,000 realms is not something that can be done in a hurry. If the measures are too drastic, the embryonic form of Heavenly Tao might appear. Even if this embryonic form of Heavenly Tao carries the will of all living creatures and has no consciousness, it can be considered as having a will. I can guarantee the resurrection of the 10,000 realms because I am the Heavenly Tao of the immortal realm, and through the connection of the immortal ladder, I have become the Heavenly Tao of the 10,000 realms. I have every blade of grass and every tree of the 10,000 realms in my mind, and I can restore the previous 10,000 realms. If the last one left is not me, this Heavenly Tao, but the embryonic form of Heavenly Tao in other worlds, then this Heavenly Tao embryonic form can only restore the world it belongs to, not the 10,000 realms. So I emphasize over and over again that we should not allow the emergence of the Heavenly Tao embryonic form, but unexpectedly, there are still problems. The respected God hidden looked at Zhang Li. As a result, not only has the embryonic form of Heavenly Tao appeared in the 9 provinces, but also you have appeared. The respected God hidden sighed and said to the immortal emperor, Dome Sky, it's a problem with the system. If you had not allowed Lu Wu to become a close minister supervising the immortals, Lu Wu would not have been trying to overthrow Mingwo. To avoid leaving a handle, Mingwo had no choice but to kill White Knight Immortal who had made a mistake and caused the emergence of Heavenly Tao embryonic form. The method of Mingguo scared Du Yi, and Du Yi was scared to report the matter of the 9 provinces. On the surface, it is a coincidence that Lu Wu is too ambitious. In fact, your supervision is overbearing, which scared the immortals into feeling insecure. After a moment of thought, Zhang Li said, "Could I solve the black tide with my words and law following?" The respected God Hidden laughed and shook his head. "You underestimate the black tide. Your words and laws, after all, are just a kind of way. The things I can do, your words and laws can do, the things I can't do, your words and laws can't do either." Seeing that Zhang Li was still thinking, the respected God Hidden said, "You are the human emperor in the 9 provinces, so I will respect you as Zhang, the human emperor." Zhang, the human emperor, breaking the rules might help you deal with the black tide a few times, but it's a futile effort. The black tide is a random phenomenon, the time and place of its occurrence are uncertain, it may appear in the void, may appear in your 9 provinces, and may even appear in the human body. Can you guarantee that you can eliminate it every time the black tide appears? And you only want to protect the 9 provinces? You don't care about other worlds? After the gathering of possibilities, the black tide swallowing all worlds is already a foregone conclusion. If you keep breaking apart the black tide, several black tides may appear at the same time. What can you do then? The only solution at the moment is for you to go and destroy the other parallel worlds, and then sacrifice yourself before the black tide arrives. Or let's say, if I let you become the last person, the last consciousness, do you have the image of the 10,000 realms in your mind? Can you open up a new world and restore the current one? The respected God Hidden talked non-stop, in a surprisingly good mood, even finding time to joke around. He knew that Zhang Li was a righteous man, bearing the world in his chest. He may be powerful, but to solve the black tide, what's needed is not power, but him, the heavenly Tao with the image of the 10,000 realms in mind. There is only one way to save the world, the one he just described. With Zhang Li's help, he could become the unique heavenly Tao, ensuring his survival among all heavenly Tao. Zhang Li frowned, beginning to contemplate the question once pondered by Tao Ancestor. Is there really no other solution? He knows nothing about what the respected God Hidden said, so he can't think of any other solutions. Heavenly Tao, you're lying, there is a second method you know of. Splash. Suddenly, a sound of water flowing came from above everyone's heads. Everyone looked up together and found a crack appearing above their heads. Emperor Shun, dressed in a raincoat, came on a boat, against the river of time, and arrived at the present. Ji Shun left the river of time and arrived at the immortal realm in the present. He smiled at the respected God Hidden and Zhang Li, saying, "If there wasn't a second solution, why would I have created the Zhou dynasty?" Ji Shun, the respected God Hidden became angry, and the space solidified, creating a deadly atmosphere. Chapter 684. The Law of the Jungle and the Rule of Destruction. The respected God Hidden was enraged. He was so close to persuading Zhang Li to be used by him. With the help of an unconventional person like Zhang Li, what couldn't he achieve? Don't get so mad. Facing the respected God Hidden's towering fury, Emperor Shun was not afraid at all. Die. The respected God Hidden made a move, aiming to kill Emperor Shun. Before the respected God Hidden had made a move, Emperor Shun was already on the move. He opened his arms, stepped back, stepping into the river of time that appeared under his feet. In the next instant, Emperor Shun emerged from the river of time and came to Zhang Li's side. Unlike Ji, who deliberately used his double pupil power, Emperor Shun always had 3 scenes in his eyes: the past, the present, the future. He had seen the respected God Hidden's move in advance. The 3 primordial immortals were shocked to see Emperor Shun. Although Emperor Shun was not highly cultivated, his mystery was no less than that of the Tao Ancestor. Since ancient times, the immortal realm has been filled with legends of Emperor Shun. In front of Emperor Shun, time had no meaning. He could appear at any point in time. Yuanzu regarded Emperor Shun as a thorn in his side. As a primordial immortal who specialized in studying the rules of time, he was still inferior to Emperor Shun in time rules, which was a great shame. The respected God Hidden represented the sum total of the world's powers, and Yuanzu's comprehension of the rules of time was the respected God Hidden's comprehension of the rules of time. As could be seen from his previous move, Emperor Shun's understanding of the rules of time exceeded that of Yuanzu and the respected God Hidden. The respected God Hidden once again tried to make a move, but was directly pinned to the ground by Zhang Li. Wearing a straw raincoat, Emperor Shun looked like a simple boatman. He squatted down to look at the respected God Hidden, bringing up a question that Zhang Li hadn't noticed before. Zhang Li was struck by the question like a thunderbolt. Heavenly Tao, you say after you become the last consciousness, you can restore the 10,000 realms. But the world you restore, is it the current world, or the one 9,000 years ago? The pupils of the respected God-hidden shrank. He had been deliberately avoiding this question earlier, but now it had been brought up by Emperor Shun. Seeing the respected God-hidden's silence, Emperor Shun answered for him, without the immortal ascension ladder, you can't supervise every detail of the 10,000 realms. You can only restore the 10,000 realms as it once was. In the restored world, there would be no Zhongli, no black tide. You could do whatever you want, without any constraints. Then, Emperor Shun told Zhongli, of course, after the restoration, Zhouzhou will no longer be the peaceful and harmonious place it is now. Instead, it will revert back to the strife-filled Zhouzhou where righteousness and evil were at odds, with no Bai Hongtu, no Yu Yin, no Saintess Pure Heart, no Ji, no Captain Lu, no Zhang Konggu. Most of the people you're familiar with will be gone. The respected God-hidden hurriedly spoke up, I can descend to Zhouzhou and bear the current Zhouzhou in mind. Emperor Shun leisurely responded, can you really? I don't think you can. In the world you restore, there exist previous incarnations of these people. Can one soul be both past and present? If you really could do it, why didn't you tell Zhongli before? Don't tell me you forgot. As Heavenly Tao, you know every detail. How could there be anything you forget to mention? Emperor Shun's words cut through the respected God-hidden's facade like a sharp knife. Emperor Shun continued, and do you really want to restore the 10,000 realms? At these words, not only Zhongli furrowed his eyebrows, but the three present primordial immortals also frowned. What did he mean by that? Remained calm, the respected God-hidden replied, of course, if I don't restore the 10,000 realms, who will? Emperor Shun shook his head. Heavenly Tao, you misinterpreted my question. I asked if you want to, not if you can. Of course, I indeed want to restore the 10,000 realms. Really, don't you have ambitions? After all, in the end, you are the only one in the world. You can do whatever you want. Why bother to restore the 10,000 realms? Wouldn't it be better to create a world that fits your ideal? Spoke in an indifferent tone, the respected God-hidden said, yes, what you said might happen, but only if entities like the immortal emperor have a selfish heart. I am the Heavenly Tao, fair and impartial. The thoughts of all living creatures are my thoughts, I have no selfish heart or ulterior motives as you suggested. You claim to have no self-interest. If you hadn't gained intelligence, that's true, you might not have self-interest. But now, you've acquired intelligence, rich emotions, and you still claim to be selfless. Emperor Shun began counting on his fingers. The first time you saw Zhongli, you felt curiosity. You took the immortal realm and fled from Zhongli, which showed fear. You deliberately concealed the truth, this betrayed deceit. You felt joy when you thought you had successfully tricked Zhongli. You felt anger when I ruined your plan. You are swayed by emotions, and still dare to say you have no self-interest. You were born from the thoughts of all living creatures, and their characteristics will appear in you. There's a very interesting characteristic of living beings. When they face danger, they'll promise to do everything they can to save themselves, and make all kinds of promises like being eternally grateful, turning over a new leaf, etc. Once they are out of danger, they might find their previous promises excessive, and want to renege. Heavenly Tao, don't you have this trait? The respected God-hidden scoffed. That's sophistry. While everything you said can prove I have emotions, how can you make such a stretch to say that I have self-interest? Zhongli locked his gaze on the respected God-hidden, trying to use his ability to make laws with his words, speak your true thoughts. Suddenly, the respected God-hidden changed his tone from before, all the creatures are dull and ignorant. Now, I am tied up by these dull creatures, losing my freedom. When I rebuild the world, I will create an ideal world in my mind. Restoring the immortal realm, rewarding according to the number of destroyed worlds all lies. Upon speaking, the respected God-hidden hurriedly covered his mouth. The Buddha was shaking with anger and roared, even the monastic disciples don't lie, but you, the Heavenly Tao, deceived everyone. Respected God-hidden, you fooled me. The Buddha and the Confucian saint had been fighting for 9,000 years, aiming to dissuade the Confucian saint from submitting to the Heavenly Tao and save the world. And now, all of this turned out to be a joke. Clap, clap, clap. Emperor Shun clapped his hands. Well done, Heavenly Tao. You've also learned to lie. You're becoming more and more human. I had foreseen that you, Heavenly Tao, didn't actually want to restore the world. For this reason, I traveled 3,000 years into the past and established the Zhou dynasty, proving that there is a second way to save the world. The 9 rules can be divided into 2 categories. The law of the jungle and the rule of destruction belong to one, the remaining 7 belong to the other. The criteria for the division is order and chaos. The law of the jungle and the rule of destruction have chaos in common. It's clear that the rule of destruction is chaotic. It appears at unpredictable times, places, and ranges. The law of the jungle is also chaotic. The strong make the rules and yet can defy the very rules they have established. The rules are but waste paper, and the strong do as they please, which is chaos. And the rule of destruction only destroys places with chaos, that is, places where the law of the jungle exists. Zhang Li, you did well on this. Even though you are the strongest, you are still willing to follow the rules of the Zhou dynasty, keeping it orderly. Chapter 685, Order. Emperor Shun spoke earnestly. Zhang, the human emperor, I often observe all aspects of the world in the river of time, watching how the strong comport themselves. Among all the strong I have encountered, you are the strongest and most unique. One characteristic of the strong is self-centeredness. Assume that their words are reason, and their deeds are right. After setting the rules, they expect others to follow, yet, justified by the fact that they created those rules, they do not believe they need to abide by them. Others directly declare that this world is one of survival of the fittest. My behaviors comply with the laws of nature, disregarding rules and systems. Zhang Li's expression was odd. Emperor Shun's words reminded him of the Emperor of Origin and the Leisurely Ones. These two had also echoed similar sentiments. Who knows how the Emperor of Origin and the Leisurely Ones are doing right now? The order I referred to is not just any order. Take for instance, the heavenly code of the immortal realm is destined to maintain the rule of the immortal emperor. The immortal emperor would, of course, not violate it, but what about others? Many outwardly abide by the heavenly code but inwardly are reluctant to adhere to it. I have subtly done some tallying. Immortal Emperor, in the immortal realm, only 20% of immortals agree with your heavenly code, whereas the majority of cultivators in the immortal realm fundamentally oppose your heavenly code. Diversions between appearance and reality cannot constitute order. Order has 2 characteristics. First, it is agreed upon and recognized by the majority. Second, it is followed by everyone. While this is simple to say, it is as hard as reaching the heavens. The first point is difficult because the majority are weak, and the strong would barely care about the power of the weak. The rules set by the strong are to safeguard their own interests. The second point is even harder than the first. In the world of technology, the rules they set seem perfect. But does everyone truly follow them? Take the observer's world as an example. Their technology has advanced to the extreme, and their laws are so perfect that they no longer need refinement. But in reality, there are still people in the observer's world who violate the law. Who are they? They are the senators and the privileged class. Zhang, the human emperor, do you remember the son of the senator you encountered during the protest? He has held numerous protests without approval. According to the laws of the observer's world, he should be arrested. And as you saw, the son of the senator was untouched. The government had no intent of dealing with the senator's son. The senator's son has reached the nascent soul stage, which requires money. The income of the senator is insufficient for his son to reach the nascent soul stage. The senator's son reached the nascent soul stage through the donations of the CEO of Meteor Corporation. According to local laws, senators cannot accept such large donations. Everyone knows there is something fishy about the cultivation of the senator's son, but the senator's political enemies have made no mention of it, nor used it as evidence to topple their adversary. Why? It's because none of the senators are clean. Is it friendship that binds the senator and the CEO of the Meteor Corporation? No, their friendship is born of self-interest. I am confident that the senator's son is most likely to be the next senator, because of their connections. The senator is supposedly elected by the citizens, but in reality, there is much underhanded play involved. The senators to be do not know a single civilian. What do they rely on for elections? Influencing connections and pulling strings are human nature, and also the stumbling block in requiring everyone to act according to regulations. Do the 3 supreme authorities know about these things? They do. They view these as the flaws of human nature and part of the observation content, not needing correction. When I established the Zhou dynasty, I once said that the life of the law does not lie in its creation but in its execution. Enforcing the law is hard because some individuals always believe they are privileged and not bound. This is the case throughout history in any world. In the cultivation world, order is established for an individual's benefits. It is hard to please the majority. That's why I say, Zhang, the human emperor, you are the most unique. As the strongest, towering over the 9 states, all your actions are not for yourself but for the world. The order you set can earn the agreement of the majority because most of them are mortals. In the beginning, the high-level cultivators didn't understand your ways, but under your influence, they gradually changed to the current state. The process of establishing the Zhou dynasty was similar. I put cultivators and mortals on the same line with laws, requiring them all to abide. The cultivators disagreed. I enforced laws forcefully, whoever didn't enforce it was punished by the law. Gradually, cultivators were forced to attempt enforcing the law. Then they discovered, with the laws, the world transformed from burning, killing, looting, and danger lurking every morning, into a world where effort reaps benefits. The safety of cultivators was assured, resources were guaranteed, they could slowly grow stronger. The success of the Zhou dynasty proves that cultivators can also abide by the law. The moment the Zhou dynasty completely achieved the standard of order was when you, Zhang, the human emperor, ascended to the throne and chose to respect and support the Zhou dynasty. Of course, the success of the Zhou dynasty also owes to the help of the Confucian sage. Emperor Shun looked at the Confucian sage and gave a fist salute in gratitude. The latter was utterly puzzled. Me, the Confucian sage didn't know how he was associated with this matter. Maintaining order not only relies on laws but also morals. If you hadn't preached to the heavens, spreading Confucianism and giving people the concept of morality, the Zhou dynasty's promotion of law would have encountered more setbacks. Before you achieved immortality, you asked the Taoist progenitor for advice, didn't you? The Confucian sage nodded his head. This was no secret, everyone knew about his aspiration to become a primeval immortal. Yes, I asked the Taoist progenitor how to become a primeval immortal. The Taoist progenitor said, I could study the rule of survival of the fittest as a research object, spread the doctrines of Confucianism in the 10,000 realms, so that all beings are no longer just the rule of the jungle, power supreme, so that all beings know that there is morality beyond power. Afterward, I preached in the 10,000 realms, contemplated the myriad manifestations of life, and finally awakened to achieve the status of a primeval immortal. Emperor Shun revealed the story behind this. Actually, I asked the Taoist progenitor to have you preaching. Originally, the Taoist progenitor wanted you to understand the rule of energy conversion. I went back in time and suggested it would be better for you to preach. The Taoist progenitor agreed with my perspective. The Confucian sage frowned. Since you knew of the second method to solve the rule of destruction, why didn't you tell the Taoist progenitor and me? The Confucian sage and Buddha had been in a spiritual battle for 9,000 years, constantly tormented. He knew that the respected God Hidden and Buddha were right, yet he still did not admit defeat. If he had known the second method earlier, he and Buddha simply wouldn't have fought. Emperor Shun shook his head and pointed at the respected God Hidden. If the Taoist progenitor and you knew about the second method, Heavenly Tao surely wouldn't let the two of you live. Dying with ruined cultivation is certain. The Taoist progenitor wouldn't even have a chance of reincarnation. Now, I dare to reveal the second method because Zhang Li is here, so I don't have to worry about the Heavenly Tao attacking us. Chapter 686, Miraculous Strength. After hearing the words of the respected God Hidden and Emperor Shun, Zhang Li held up 3 fingers. I have 3 questions. First question, I am already immortal. The black tide can't devour me. No matter how much you, Heavenly Tao, want me to go to the parallel world to deal with other Heavenly Tao, in the end, it's me who will survive, not you. Respected God Hidden had never thought about this question. What about committing suicide? Zhang Li shook his head. I can't die even if I try to kill myself. The respected God Hidden was taken aback. He had never heard of anyone who could not die even by suicide. The second question, Zhang Li turned to Emperor Shun. Creating order is not an overnight success. How much time do we have before the black tide arrives in our world? The black tide will arrive on the river of time in 10 years. As for how much longer until it reaches your world, I can't predict, but it's definitely an event that will occur after 10 years. 10 years is too rushed, even to go through the immortal tribulation. I can only do it once more. It's impossible to establish the order you mentioned in the 10,000 realms. Although there's something wrong with the way you calculate time, we have no way around our lack of time. We save as many worlds as we can. So, the third question, since the black tide is strengthened by passing through the possibility convergence point, changing from possible to inevitable, can I destroy the possibility convergence point and restore the black tide to its original state? Emperor Shun, he had traveled through ancient and modern times, laid out infinite schemes, and finally found a second solution. And now, Zhang Li suddenly proposed a third solution. The key thing is, the more he thought about it, the more possible it seemed. As one who had walked the river of time and almost caused it to collapse, it seemed not impossible to destroy the possibility convergence point. Emperor Shun nodded sincerely. Zhongli, your thinking is truly simple unusual, it is possible to achieve this destroying the possibility convergence point. Although it can't completely eliminate the law of destruction, it can make the law of destruction return to its original uncertain form. Zhongli asked again, how feasible is it? Emperor Shun shook his head. I don't know. There is no precedent for it, so I can't say how likely it is. If you, Zhongli, want to go to the possibility convergence point, it's 10 years from now, when the black tide comes to the river of time. You can go against the current through the channel that the black tide opened. In that case, I'll prepare for both. Jojo will continue to explore the 10,000 realms and try to achieve the order you, Emperor Shun, requested. On the other hand, I will wait until 10 years later to go to the possibility convergence point. That's the most thorough preparation. With matters settled, Heavenly Tao, it's time for us to settle our affairs. Seeing this attitude of Zhongli, the respected God Hidden knew that he couldn't live past Zhongli's hands. With things as they are, I no longer defend myself. As heaven, I don't want to die by man. The respected God Hidden lost the will to live, closed his eyes, his soul returned to heaven, his body returned to the Tao, leaving no trace in the world. Everyone felt as if something inside them had shattered. From the broken immortal realm came a mournful crying sound, filled with sorrow and inexplicable sadness. The Tao falls, the heavens weep, the earth cries. Said the sage of the scholars, the immortal realm is no more, and the heavenly Tao of the immortal realm has also disappeared. From now on, it is the era of humanity. No, no, don't. The immortal emperor yelled in terror as his immortal body began to disintegrate from the fingertips, turning into feather fragments. The immortal emperor was the spokesman of the heavenly Tao. With the death of the heavenly Tao, he also had to follow in its footsteps. I won't die like this. The immortal emperor roared. The burial spear of the immortals returned to its beam of light form and melted into his body. He radiated limitless light, trying to stop the transformation. The immortal emperor employed various life-saving measures: golden cicada molting, fire bath resurrection, the life-saving golden core, the double life GU, but none worked. This transformation is irreversible, his unrivaled skills are helpless. I can't accept this. I can't. Arms, legs, torso, and skull disappeared in succession, turned into luminous feathers, and in the end, even his soul disappeared. An immortal emperor fell. Emperor Shun sighed. Heavenly Tao, constrained by the rule of survival of the fittest, cannot resist, must not resist, it's truly sad. Everyone in the world can develop spirit and wisdom, but Heavenly Tao alone can't. It's a pity that the fair Heavenly Tao developed spirit and wisdom, became an independent individual, transformed from heartless to sentient, from impartial to selfish. Actually, Heavenly Tao also wanted to make the world more orderly, but he couldn't. Buddha, Confucian sage, Zhongli paid his respects. The reputation of these two predecessors echoed throughout the 10,000 realms. It was only right to greet them. Despite the fact that the Buddha and the Confucian sage had already arrived at the battlefield, the series of events happened so quickly that Zhongli didn't even have time to greet them. The Buddha returned his greeting. Your strength, kind sir, is unparalleled regardless of the era. By accepting your respect, I feel undeserving. I see that there is a subtle Buddha light emanating from you, kind sir. Do you have a connection with Buddhism? The Buddha saw Zhongli differently from ordinary people. He looked at Zhongli as if seeing a future Buddha. Zhongli hesitated for a moment and uncertainly said, it might be because I am at the Mahayana realm. What is the Mahayana realm? The Buddha had never heard of this cultivation level. Zhongli explained, the name Mahayana realm comes from the Buddhist law of Mahayana. Fighting against heavenly Tao and immortals is the mark of the Mahayana realm. The Buddha was curious, there is such a magical level, I wonder which powerful person named this level. Long lived immortal elder. The Buddha came to realization, so it was he, the youngest disciple of the Taoist ancestor. The Taoist ancestor is truly extraordinary, not just because he is the peak cultivator of immortality, but also because his taught disciples are also exceptional, creating a new realm, transcending both heavenly Tao and immortals. If possible, I'd really like to meet him. Does the Buddha wish to come to Jojo? The Buddha shook his head, his smile carrying a touch of bitterness. I was deceived by the heavenly Tao, I'm too ashamed to face living beings. Zhongli wanted to try to persuade the Buddha again. After all, this matter was hard to say who's right and who's wrong, there was no need to self-blame. However, the Buddha was determined, no matter what was said it would be useless. The Buddha entered nirvana, his body disappeared, leaving behind a golden Buddha skeleton sitting in a cross-legged position. The Buddhist scriptures flowed on the surface of the Buddha bone, making it seem like a primordial deity. Why must it be this way? Zhongli sighed, but he didn't feel too sad. Although the Buddha had entered nirvana, his soul was still present. The Buddha would go to the underworld, but whether he would stay there or choose to reincarnate was unknown. Confucian sage, what about you? I heard that the Taoist ancestor has reincarnated in Jojo. I want to go see. The Confucian sage laughed. What he didn't say was that what he really wanted to see was the unique Jojo. Before Emperor Shun returned to the River of Time, he seriously warned Zhongli, be careful of my junior named Gigi, he is very complicated and ambitious. Zhongli was confused. He may go back 500 years and beat up your younger self. Zhongli solemnly gripped his fist. Thank you for the reminder, Emperor Shun. Chapter 687. Simply put, the immortal realm is gone. Whether or not Zhongli can resolve the issue of heavenly Tao, if he can't, I'll step in for him. Bai Hongtu's words resonated with audacious confidence. Of course, he had this confidence. Not counting Zhongli, he himself was the strongest in Jojo. Oh, really? I'd like to see how Sect Master Bai would replace Am. Zhongli's voice, ethereal as a specter, rang out from behind Bai Hongtu, startling him into holding up his hands in surrender. Just kidding, Brother Zhong. Twisting his head around, Bai Hongtu saw that it was Dong Zongshu's grandchild imitating Zhongli's speech. Dong Zongshu, you son of, irritated, Bai Hongtu was ready to show Dong Zongshu how one must not provoke a transcendence tribulation stage cultivator. From behind Bai Hongtu, Zhongli's voice sounded again. Sect Master Bai wants to confront the heavenly Tao in the immortal realm. I, as the human emperor, fully support this. Bai Hongtu sneered. Such juvenile tricks won't fool me anymore. Even if you all impersonate Zhongli, or even if the real Zhongli showed up, I'll still dare to challenge heaven. Oh, it's the real Zhongli. Seeing the real Zhongli standing in the flesh, Bai Hongtu turned around. There was a scholarly and refined Confucian scholar standing next to Zhongli. The scholar sighed in admiration. Jojo truly is extraordinary, to have such outstanding individuals who aren't afraid of the heavenly Tao or powerful authorities. Confucian sage. Dong Zongshu lost all composure, exclaiming with shock. The others also stood up abruptly, staring at the Confucian scholar in disbelief. Statues and paintings of the Confucian sage were frequently placed at the entrance and walls of the academy, so the cultivators of Jojo were very familiar with his image. Apprentice pays his respects to the Confucian sage. Dong Zongshu paid his respects, his body trembling with emotion. Apprentice, who are your sect's elders? In response to the sage, I am a descendant of Dong Zongshu, who is your registered disciple. The Confucian sage's face was odd. So Dong Zongshu introduced himself to you all in this way? Yes. Is there a problem? Zhongli was also curious. Everyone in Jojo knew that the founder of Confucianism, Dong Zongshu, was a registered disciple of the Confucian sage. The Confucian sage explained. Dong Zongshu indeed was my disciple, but he wasn't registered. His claim of being a registered disciple is not wrong either. After all, I remember his name, and indeed, he was my discipline. Zhongli. This was the first time he had heard this interpretation of being a registered disciple. In this context, would Bai Hongtu count as a registered friend? Zhongli started to doubt the lineage of Jojo's sects. Everyone claimed illustrious heritage, but he wondered how much of it was true. At the very least, the origin of the wish-fulfilling gourd was false. The Tianyuan Emperor dynasty publicly claimed that it was a gift from the Tao ancestor to the first-generation Tianyuan Emperor, while in fact, it was purchased by the first Tianyuan Emperor at a price 3 times the market rate. May I ask, human emperor, with the Confucian sage here, does that mean the current situation with the immortal realm? Someone asked hesitantly, questioning what everyone else wanted to know. Although everyone had faith in Zhongli's ability and believed he wouldn't lose against the immortal realm, when faced with reality, it still felt like a tall tale to them. However, judging by both the human emperor's expression and the appearance of the Confucian sage, it seemed rather likely. Since everyone is here, call over Elder Huang Chengkun too. There are some matters I want to discuss. Gigi spoke up. I knew you would say that. I've already sent for the elder. By my calculations, he should be arriving soon. JJIG looked at Zhongli, his face beaming with joy. Ever since reaching the body integration realm, he no longer feared Zhongli. With his current mastery of the Tao of Time, he could travel back to 500 years ago at any time and fight a deathmatch with the then weaker Zhongli. Now, whether he wanted to fight or not entirely depended on his mood. Mid-conversation, an ancient-sounding laughter came from outside the hall. To think that even at this age, so many people care about me, even calling me to meetings. Confucian sage. As soon as Elder Huang Chengkun entered the hall, he noticed the very conspicuous Confucian sage. I remember that Tao ancestor mentioned that his youngest disciple is named Huang Chengkun. Zhang the human emperor introduced you to me. You've established a new stage in cultivation. Truly impressive. The Confucian sage didn't know how the stage of body integration realm came to be. He only knew Huang Chengkun mentioned a new stage named body integration realm, and then Zhang Li achieved it. By common reasoning, Huang Chengkun would be considered as Zhang Li's guide, his teacher. Huang Chengkun was indeed very remarkable. So, the Confucian sage expressed his admiration for the elder from the bottom of his heart. However, upon hearing it, Huang Chengkun found it somewhat strange. After coughing to clear his throat, he changed the subject. Zhang Li, why were we all summoned here? Meanwhile, Gigi had already ordered the ceremony department to arrange the table in a circular pattern, in accordance with the layout used for discussions at the imperial palace. The people from the ceremony department, upon seeing the Confucian sage, were so frightened they nearly pulled out their hair. How were they supposed to entertain the sage and the primordial chaos immortal who were visiting the Zhou dynasty? In short, the immortal realm is gone now. All the immortals have disappeared along with the heavenly Tao. Right at the start, Zhang Li dropped the bombshell that stunned everyone into a momentary loss of thought. What was the process? The heavenly Tao was the ultimate goal of all beings striving for enlightenment and cultivation. And you're saying it's just gone? And what about the immortal realm? We've just established a ladder to immortality, and now you're saying it's gone. Isn't it the same as finally finding the key to your house, only to discover that you've already moved? One question after another surfaced in everyone's mind. However, with so many things they wanted to say, they didn't know where to start. I won't go into the details of the actual battle. It was just a punch here, a smack there, nothing interesting. Zhang Li waved his hand dismissively, trivializing the battle process against the heavenly Tao with onomatopoeic words. The Confucian sage twitched involuntarily at the corners of his eyes. So, what they thought was an incredibly dangerous battle, where one wrong move could cost them their lives, was just this much to Zhang Li. Now that the heavenly Tao has disappeared, no more merit will be generated, and no merit can be converted into immortal power. But you don't need to worry about becoming an immortal. The ladder to immortality can convert spiritual energy into immortal power. There's no need to go to the immortal realm and use merit. The Confucian sage replied. Although I am not as familiar with the immortal realm's cultivation methods as Tao ancestor, I can still recall around 80% of the immortal realm's cultivation methods and scriptures. I can offer you guys immortal power and immortal techniques. I can teach Jojo how to break through to the heavenly immortal and golden immortal realms. The Confucian sage's words left everyone startled and flattered. The condescending sage actually offering to provide them with cultivation techniques and guide them was a delightful surprise. Zhang Li looked at everyone speechlessly. What? A body integration stage cultivator, think about you guys every day, why don't I see you all looking flattered? The immortal realm was destroyed due to deep reasons involving a rule called the destruction rule. In order to counter the destruction rule, there are two methods. Zhang Li went into detail about the two methods proposed by the heavenly Tao and Emperor Shun, omitting the fact that he would go to the realm of possibilities. The third method was uncertain, and mentioning it could lead everyone to think that the situation wasn't severe since Zhang, the human emperor, was there. Under this mindset, it wouldn't be beneficial to maintain order. Chapter 688. Seems no different from what was done before. When Zhang Li spoke of the second method, everyone instinctively looked at Gigi. The Great Zhou governed the nation according to laws, not to mention compared to the other states in Zhou, even among the 10,000 realms including the immortal realm, there was no other place like the Great Zhou, a cultivation world that respected laws over strength. This was truly incomprehensible. Now everyone finally understood that the establishment of the Great Zhou was meant to solve the problem of the rule of destruction. Emperor Shun is indeed extraordinary among immortals. Everyone sincerely admired Emperor Shun. Other immortals established sects, all aimed at making the sects last long. Only Emperor Shun thought not just for a country, but for the 10,000 realms. The best plan at the moment is to implement the second method proposed by Emperor Shun to establish order in the 10,000 realms. Zhang Li said solemnly, everyone, this is no joke. This is a matter of life and death for the 10,000 realms. If we do not establish order, then facing the black tide, death is the only way. No, the black tide will devour souls, and we won't even have the chance to die. And if we want to implement order in the 10,000 realms, then we must first have JoJo maintain order, establish an order that the majority of people acknowledge, and have everyone follow this order. I know that might be difficult for you, as some cannot let go of their status in the body integration realm and feel that because they are in the body integration stage, they can act recklessly. Zhongli was just about to encourage everyone to overcome difficulties and good across tribulations, but unexpectedly, there was no hint of difficulty on their faces. Instead, there was a sort of indescribable strangeness. What's wrong? Why are you all looking at me like this? Zhongli was puzzled. One of the emperors hesitated, then said, more than 300 years ago, when you, Zhong Human Emperor, became the Human Emperor and defended JoJo with your own example, abiding by the rules we established, faithfully considering for us and for the cultivators and ordinary people, and striving to find a balance among cultivators with different levels. Over these more than 300 years, we have all seen and remembered all that you have done. Being the strongest, you were willing to behave like this. How could we dare to take advantage of our positions? Although the rules we each have are not perfect and often favor us higher-level cultivators, in reality, we rarely use our privileges. Not only as high-level cultivators, but also the people born over the past 100 years have grown up listening to your stories. They all aspire to be like you. Regardless of whether they have no talent for cultivation and can only become ordinary people in the middle stage of chi cultivation, or they are extraordinarily talented and become leaders in their generation, they will not disrupt the rules you established. After you became the Human Emperor, the mentality of cultivators and ordinary people has gradually changed from fighting brutally for resources to trying to maximize their cultivation talent and see their true potential. Spiritual energy, cultivation technique, Dan medicine, spiritual treasures we have now all in abundance and there is no longer any need for us to fight for them. JoJo had ample spiritual energy which met the cultivation requirement. As for the cultivation technique, Zhongli had opened up the body integration realm technique, allowing the cultivators to choose what they wanted to cultivate. The Dan medicine produced by the spirit medicine sect was affordably priced. The cultivation method for spiritual treasures issued by the Dao sect has made it possible for spiritual treasures to be upgraded along with the cultivators. Even the cultivators in the Mahayana realm, immortals, and those at the transcendence tribulation stage are without any heirs, and are kindly guiding us in our cultivation. How can we, as high-level cultivators, think we're any better? What you call establishing order is not difficult. We just need to go back and establish rules that the majority of people are satisfied with. The other cultivators then echoed this emperor's opinion. In a nutshell, we are not as bad as you, Zhong Human Emperor, imagine us to be. The sage was astounded. He never imagined that there could be a world with such perfect harmony. Was this the same JoJo where the strong ate the weak? The sage educated the 10,000 realms, teaching people about morality, honor and shame, but he found that after people learned about morality, they still continued burning, killing, looting, and doing everything possible to become stronger. A line they often said was, "The strong have the right to live." 20,000 years ago, when he learned that the unique Great Zhou dynasty of JoJo world was in accordance with his wishes, he descended to check it out. But the fairness of the Great Zhou stemmed from the Ji family's Tao of time, which could not be replicated. Originally, Zhongli still wanted to say more, to encourage everyone, but facing everyone's testimony, he helplessly shook his head, feeling that he had thought too much before. Let me briefly tell you the plan for the future. Our main policy hereafter is, JoJo will continue to explore the 10,000 realms, get in touch with other worlds and inform them of the terrifying rule of destruction and the need to establish order to fight them. For the other worlds that need help, we should do our best to assist them. Bai Hongtu scratched his chin, pondered for a long time, then hesitantly said, "It seems that this is no different from what we were doing before." The others felt the same. Zhongli, I poured out my heart and soul, searched for the stairway to immortality, transformed the immortal realm, learned the truth of the end of the world and the methods to save the world. During this whole process I didn't even have time to play, and you're giving me a result that is no different from before. Even though it was indeed no different. Zhongli held his forehead. All right, adjourn the meeting. Everyone, go do what you have to. The crowd dispersed all at once. Those who had to teach disciples continued teaching disciples, those who had to return to their sects returned to their sects, those who had to stroll around the 10,000 realms went to stroll around the 10,000 realms. The meeting didn't last very long from the beginning to the end. Sinan, the historian who was appointed by Great Zhou for Zhongli, faithfully recorded the meeting process by the side. Zhong Human Emperor's grandeur was as if assisted by heaven. He wanted to ascend to the immortal realm, and heavenly Tao paved the stairway to immortality for him. Zhang Human Emperor ascended to the immortal realm, and the originally dark immortal realm suddenly burst with dazzling light, with a procession of immortals lining up to welcome him. The immortal realm destroys the 10,000 realms, violating humanity. Its heart deserves death. There should be a master of humanity to confront this disaster and punish all. Among all the tribulations, only the tribulation of the human emperor cannot be resisted, it can only be bravely faced. The tribulation of the human emperor was glorious and limitless, any dark and evil hearts would feel ashamed of themselves. Even the heavenly Tao, in the face of the tribulation of the human emperor, trembled and did not dare to oppose it. The heavenly Tao wants to refine the immortal realm into a chaotic golden Dan, daring to compete with the tribulation of the human emperor. Zhang Human Emperor's mastery of the alchemy Tao was unparalleled. The little tricks of the heavenly Tao were just childish games, laughably pretentious. The tribulation of the human emperor arrived as scheduled, the immortal realm was destroyed, and humanity ascended greatly. Excerpted from Human Emperor Zhang Chronicles. After reading the minutes of the meeting written by Sinan, Gigi felt that this man deserved to be rewarded. You wrote well. As a reward, you are forbidden to write the history of the great Zhou in the future and are to focus solely on recording Zhang Li's deeds. Chapter 689. Disappearance of Heavenly Tao's Characteristics. The meeting ended, and the everlasting immortal elder, sneakily found Zhang Li, now that the heavenly Tao is dead, has the beauty of the heavenly Tao characteristic on the fairy of red dust disappeared. Zhang Li looked at the elder fairy and thought that the elder truly lived up to his reputation, always thinking of things he hadn't considered. Shall we go and see? Zhang Li wasn't afraid of the elder going crazy at the sight of the fairy of red dust. Worst case scenario, he'd just hold the old man back and drag him back to the Tao sect. Fairy of red dust. The Confucian saint heard a familiar name. Saint, you know the fairy too. With a swoosh, the Confucian saint opened his paper fan. Who in the immortal realm doesn't know the name of the fairy of red dust? When the heavenly Tao first divided its many incarnations, all the other incarnations displayed characteristics of wisdom, strength, combat, bravery, etc., and gradually made a name for themselves. Only the fairy of red dust, upon being seen, everyone went crazy. Only a few of us who are mixed origin, ultimate immortal shadows, maintain our calm when we see the fairy of red dust. Below us, no one could resist the allure of the beauty of the heavenly Tao. I remember that when I was teaching in the apricot forest, usually there were no vacant seats. One day, the fairy of red dust passed by, and all the immortals ran to see her, leaving no one to listen to this pitiful old man. Buddha was also the same. The Buddhas, Arhats, Bodhisattvas could not enter their meditation. The Western Buddhist world was thrown into chaos. At the morning court of the immortal emperor, no one attended. The immortal emperor, angered, slept for 3 days in the harem. The primordial ancestor was all right, he seemed not to be affected too much. Zhang Li was curious, the disciples of the primordial ancestor have strong willpower. No, it's because the primordial ancestor is alone, he has no subordinates. Among us, when the Tao sect teaches, everyone goes to listen. The teachings of the Tao sect were so vivid that everyone forgot about the allure of the fairy of red dust. Zhang Li was surprised, the effectiveness of the Tao sect's teachings was much better than his own. The Confucian saint looked at the similarly uninformed everlasting immortal elder and decided to tell the truth. That day, the Tao sect was teaching how to pursue the fairy of red dust. Zhang Li rubbed his forehead in pain. Every time he hears a story about the Tao sect, his respect for Tao sect drops a notch. Thankfully, my image of the Tao sect is now equal to Bai Hongtu, there's no more respect left to lose. Zhang Li felt relieved, and could continue to hear more about the Tao sect's anecdotes. Pure heart, are you going to return to the pure land of red dust? The 3 of us want to meet the fairy of red dust. Zhang Li called to the saintess Pure Heart. Preparing to leave after the meeting, the saintess Pure Heart's eyes brightened, and she readily agreed, inviting the 3 to pure land of red dust. The fairy of red dust's bloodline, did she also bring the fairy peach tree, that gets you pregnant once you eat its fruits, to the 9 provinces? The Confucian saint recognized that the saintess Pure Heart is a descendant of the fairy of red dust. The fairy of red dust would not fall in love with anyone. With a gracious bow, saintess Pure Heart spoke. Pure Heart pays respects to the Confucian saint. Indeed, my master has planted the fairy peach tree in the pure land of red dust. Peach tree, everyone says that eating your peaches will get you pregnant. Say, if you eat your own peaches, will you grow peaches, or a little peach tree? The fairy of red dust, tapping on the trunk of the fairy peach tree, was pondering whether the peach was the offspring of the peach tree or if the small peach tree is the offspring of the peach tree. She pondered this question for several days now, but there was still no answer. The fairy peach tree rustled in the wind but offered no reply. After all, it was just a peach tree, it couldn't talk. "Fairy, we've arrived," Zhongli cheerfully greeted. As the four arrived at Pure Land of Red Dust, the everlasting immortal elder finally saw the fairy he'd been longing for in his dreams. The fairy of red dust sat under the peach tree, with soft flower petals fluttering all around like pink snow. It was incredibly pleasing to the eyes, resembling a fairyland. The everlasting immortal elder tidied up his clothes, wanting to impress the newly reborn fairy of red dust. But before he could say a word, he heard the fairy of the red dust speak. "This person is not handsome." With just one sentence, the fairy of red dust shattered the dream of the everlasting immortal elder. The elder was heartbroken. To be fair, the elder, having reverted from his old figure back to a middle-aged figure, looked much better than before, but he was indeed not as handsome as Bai Hongtu. Zhongli analyzed it seriously. The elder didn't go insane after seeing the fairy. This means the beauty of the heavenly Tao is no longer present in the fairy of red dust. "Fairy, congratulations, you can leave the Pure Land of Red Dust freely now," Zhongli said. The fairy of red dust's eyes lit up, revealing two small dimples, and she laughed very happily. "Really? I don't have to cover my face anymore." "Yes, with the dissipation of the heavenly Tao, the characteristics related to the heavenly Tao on your body also disappeared completely. Now, you are just a very beautiful heavenly immortal." For the fairy of red dust, there was no better news. She had already begun to plan what she would do after leaving the mountain. She was going to have a good time. "Fairy of red dust, do you still remember me?" The Confucian saint came forward and greeted. The fairy of red dust gently shook her head. "Who are you?" The Confucian saint had no intention of introducing himself, as he wasn't surprised at the result. A fleshly creature whose past life karma has disappeared doesn't remember, of course. The immortal realm is full of mixed fish and dragons. Anyone wanted to get you. Back then, it was me who suggested you to run to the immortal realm to avoid its troubles. "Master, this is the Confucian saint," Saintess Pure Heart reminded in a low voice. The fairy of the red dust suddenly realized, "So it's you, the one who proposed 3 self-reflections a day. Pure Heart makes me self-reflect 3 times a day. Did you sneak out today? Have you been studying diligently? Have you thought about how to pursue Zhong?" Saintess Pure Heart unleashed an unprecedented potential. She threw herself over at a tremendous speed and firmly covered the fairy of the red dust's mouth. The Confucian saint chuckled awkwardly, unsure of what to say. "I heard that the Tao sect has reincarnated into the Buddha sect's Wuji. This place is close to the Buddha sect. I want to see the reincarnated Tao sect." The Confucian saint bid farewell to Zhongli, and floated away, with the ability of space, heading towards the Buddha sect. Speaking of which, since the heavenly Tao characteristic has disappeared, then the Lord of Saha's spatial Tao is. Zhongli thought of the Lord of Saha whom he had just recruited from another world. Brahma Tower and the Lord of Saha were not in the Buddha sect, but were near the human emperor's imperial palace. When Zhongli rushed over, the Brahma Tower was teaching the Lord of Saha the basics about the spatial Tao. "I've told you before, to use spatial Tao, you not only have to know how to use it, but also understand the principles. Look at you, now you suddenly can't use the spatial Tao, and you're stuck." The Lord of Saha's upper body was in another world while his lower body was in the 9 provinces, and it looked rather bizarre. He nodded in agreement, expressing that he would study hard. Brahma Tower finally experienced being a teacher and enjoying the prestige. He spoke with a slower tone, pulled the Lord of Saha back, and said with satisfaction, "Fortunately, your talent in the spatial Tao is high and you learn quickly, completely different from that fool Zhongli. Don't worry, follow me, I'll ensure that you will quickly return to your previous level." Zhongli stood behind Brahma Tower, silently staring at it. The Lord of Saha glanced at Brahma Tower and then at Zhongli who stood behind it. Judging from Zhongli's eyes, he surmised that the life expectancy of teacher Brahma Tower was only 3 days. Chapter 690, Telling the Truth. My knowledge of the laws of space is not as weak as you imagine. The me now is not the same as I was, acting on thoughts, speaking and act in unison. For me, what difficulty is there in the simple way of space? A cold, low voice sounded, startling the Brahma Pagoda. "Jian, Emperor Zhong." The Brahma Pagoda turned around to look at the unpleasantly smiling Zhongli. "It's me, do you have any suggestions regarding my method of spatial manipulation?" "No, there's nothing," the Brahma Pagoda swore earnestly. Alright, since I've arrived here, let me check the records about exploring various 10,000 realms. The Brahma Pagoda, serving as a relay station, holds significant meaning. Any cultivators heading for other worlds must register here before leaving. Upon returning to Jojo, they must report their observations from the other worlds to the Brahma Pagoda, where the statistics will be recorded and handed to Leader Lu, who will arrange the work based on the compiled data. Now, Zhongli dared not see Leader Lu. With the immortal realm exterminated, the great deed is done. If Leader Lu says let me himself sit in the imperial palace, it would be hard for him to find an excuse to refuse. He can't simply say he's suffering from hemorrhoids and can't sit. While thinking, Zhongli perused the survey results of each world. Some were preliminary surveys, some have already been completed. Most of the surveys were conducted by cultivators at the divinity transformation and body integration realms, so the efficiency was very high. All worlds could generally be divided into cultivation worlds, technology worlds, and others. Cultivation worlds and technology worlds are mainstream, equally abundant in quantity, constituting the majority. There are a few special worlds, where neither cultivation nor advancement in technology are pursued and are still stuck in the ancient times, with unclear development direction. Sure enough, my knowledge is still not broad enough. There are so many interesting worlds that I haven't seen before, worlds where poetry and song are used as combat strategies, worlds where culinary skills are used for combat, worlds where women are superior to men, worlds where spiritual energy is reviving. As Zhongli was marveling at the vastness of the world and thinking that he should travel around, the teleportation array flickered and several young boys and girls appeared. More accurately, one young boy and 3 young girls. The male cultivator was handsome albeit somewhat anxious. He held on to the 3 young girls and said, "Listen to my explanation. I really like all 3 of you, but I was just wanting to tease you and see your jealous reactions." After saying this, the male cultivator immediately slapped himself twice. Speaking the truth unintentionally, the effect of that world has not yet disappeared. As soon as he said this, the 3 girls who were already upset burst into tears. One of them lost her temper and slapped the male cultivator. "We want to break up." The 3 girls left in tears, their hearts so broken that they didn't even notice Zhongli. The male cultivator awkwardly stood on the spot, unsure of what to do. He had intended to take his 3 junior sisters to honeymoon in another world, but he messed it all up before it even began. Blasted truth-telling world. What happened? Zhongli asked in a concerned manner. It was only then that the male cultivator noticed that Zhongli was present. He stood stiffly and nervously explains. To answer Emperor Zhong, my 3 junior sisters and I went to a place called the Truth-Telling World. As the name of the world suggests, you can only tell the truth there and not lies. Not long after I arrived in that world, my junior sisters asked who I really liked. Influenced by the world, I could only tell the truth. As a result, everyone was upset. The male cultivator's voice grew smaller as he spoke with his head down. He did not dare to look Zhongli in the eye. Zhongli finally understood. "So that's how it is. That's okay, you can go now." The male cultivator left with his head down, not daring to return to the sect for the time being, so he went elsewhere instead. Once the male cultivator left, Zhongli, dropping his serious demeanor, excitedly took out a communication talisman to contact his 2 friends. "I found a fun world called the Truth-Telling World where you can only tell the truth. Are you interested in going there?" "Alright, I'll come over then. It's at Brahma Pagoda's place, right? Yu Yin, are you coming or not?" Bai Hongtu immediately agreed. There was no reason not to go to such an interesting world. The politics in the court is currently busy, I temporarily can't get away." Yu Yin unusually sounded somewhat unstable, stuttering for a moment. Bai Hongtu exclaimed in an exaggerated and annoying tone, "Wow, this is unlike you. You can't be stumped by mere politics. You are not scared, are you?" Yu Yin's tone returned to normal. "How can I be scared? You can't provoke me either. Your childish way of provoking won't work on me. If I say that I'm unable to go, it means I genuinely can't." Zhongli and Bai Hongtu met at Brahma Pagoda with regrets, thinking that there would probably only be the 2 of them this time around, when a streak of light flew over from the horizon. Yu Yin, dressed in a goose-yellow dress, stood next to the 2 of them, with a gourd tied around her waist, and a serious look on her face. "Didn't you say you weren't coming?" Facing the puzzled gazes of Zhongli and Bai Hongtu, Yu Yin casually explained, "I can entrust political affairs to the Prime Minister. I'm here in the Truth-Telling World, not out of curiosity, but out of worry that you 2 will stir up some trouble." Once the 3 of them had assembled, they stood on the teleportation array and transported to the Truth-Telling World. The truth-telling world is a technology world with advanced technology, just slightly inferior to the Mingjiang world. As soon as they arrived in the truth-telling world, Bai Hongtu and Yu Yin felt an urge to speak. Fortunately, both of them had strong willpower and managed to hold it in. Zhang Li looked calm as he noticed a peculiar force in the truth-telling world forcing people to tell the truth. The owner of this force was definitely of a high-ranking order that even those at the Transcendence Tribulation stage could not resist. Luckily, he was in the Mahayana realm. Zhang Li stealthily watched Bai Hongtu and Yu Yin, seeing them struggle to hold themselves back, he felt that this trip was worth it. Bai Hongtu and Yu Yin were able to hold themselves back due to their strong willpower, but not everyone present had the same level of determination. It would be great to be stepped on by the master. The Rui calabash continued to express its innermost feelings, being stared at with trash-like eyes by the master is even better. Yu Yin gave the Rui calabash a disgusted look. She had never imagined that the Rui calabash would turn out to be so twisted. She slowly uttered the word, trash. The Rui calabash became even more excited. Faced with this state of the Rui calabash, Yu Yin was perplexed. In the past when the Rui calabash had embarrassed her, she would punish it by abusing it. It occurred to her now that those may not have been punishments to the Rui calabash. Zhang Li and Bai Hongtu broke into a hearty laugh upon seeing this scene. Suddenly, Zhang Li asked, "Old Bai, what were you planning about monopolizing all ginkgo trees in Jojo?" Bai Hongtu blurted out without even thinking, "Kidnap the ginkgo trees and blackmail that shitty Zhang Li." Chapter 691, Mutual Harm. Zhang Li put on an expression of full understanding, dragging out his reply in a prolonged, "Ah, so that was your intention. Don't worry, I won't take this matter to heart." Upon hearing this, Bai Hongtu immediately sensed a problem. "You always hold grudges, it's impossible for you not to take this matter to heart. You aren't affected by this world. You can still lie." Yu Yin also recognized that Zhang Li was lying. Previously, Bai Hongtu had remarked that Zhang Li's singing was terribly off-key, suitable only for swine. In response, Zhang Li insisted on singing at Bai Hongtu's bedside every morning to wake him up. Those who heard it mistakenly thought Bai Hongtu had died, and that Zhang Li was mourning him. Since then, Bai Hongtu had wholeheartedly eliminated his habit of oversleeping, practicing diligently to eventually defeat Zhang Li. Bai Hongtu had lofty ambitions, setting a goal that seemed beyond his reach, and that gap only seemed to grow wider. "So you spotted me that quickly?" Zhang Li raised his eyebrows, noting that he needed to improve his concealment skills. "This isn't fair," Bai Hongtu, representing the sect master of Dao sect, protested vehemently. Yu Yin also glared at Zhang Li, demanding an explanation. Zhang Li had no choice but to reply, all right. I swear, I will only speak the honest truth in the truth-telling world. If there's an iota of deceit, may I be punished with not being able to eat candied ha berries for the rest of my life." Bai Hongtu sucked in a breath of cold air, shocked by the severity of Zhang Li's oath. He had thought Zhang Li would pledge something like undergoing the catastrophe of immortality as punishment for lying. Zhang Li was notorious for making such statements associated with the catastrophe of immortality. Concerned that Zhang Li might forsake candied ha berries for the sake of lying, Bai Hongtu decided to probe a bit and asked cautiously, "What's the most shameful thing you have ever done?" Zhang Li's grin froze on his face. He hadn't expected Bai Hongtu to open with such a ruthless question. Torn between lying and foregoing candied ha berries forever, he finally glared at Bai Hongtu and ground out through gritted teeth. "I once wrote a short novel. In it, I fantasied of myself becoming king of the 10,000 realms, exclaiming, 'How dare you rebels oppose me? To grant you death as my final act of mercy, for you, I would defy the world without hesitation, how dare the world oppose me?'" After Zhang Li finished, the atmosphere chilled for a moment. Zhang Li felt his cheeks burning hot, thinking that coming to this world was his biggest mistake. Bai Hongtu broke out in a cold sweat, worrying that not upon discovering Zhang Li's deep secret, and Zhang Li might silence him by killing him and making it look like suicide. He even imagined the headline of the Heavenly Machine Times, "Former sect master Bai Hongtu of Dao sect found dead. Cause of death, direct injury to the spine from a halberd." After investigations by Emperor Zhang Li, with assistance from Emperor Jiji of Zhou, it was deemed a suicide. The imperial palace expresses deep sorrow over Bai Hongtu's unfortunate demise, a loss not just for Dao sect, but for all of Jojo. Yu Yin blinked her eyes, thinking that Zhang Li's speech was quite impressive, maybe she could learn this way of speaking. The magical gourd tried its hardest to pretend that it was an ordinary gourd, hearing nothing and knowing nothing. Zhang Li felt that he shouldn't be the only one to lose face, so he casually asked, Yu Yin, why did you say you wouldn't come to the truth-telling world, but then you showed up anyway? Yu Yin tried her best to keep silent, but she was unable to resist the peculiar power of the truth-telling world. She admitted, I was afraid that coming to the truth-telling world would cause me to reveal my true thoughts, which would be very embarrassing. But then Bai Hongtu provoked me, I knew it was a scheme, so I came over to prove I was not scared. After speaking, Yu Yin quickly covered her mouth, pretending those weren't her words. She was now contemplating murder. Why did she make such a rash decision to come over in the first place? Was the fault with Zhang Li? No, it was Bai Hongtu. Everything stemmed from Bai Hongtu. If Bai Hongtu hadn't provoked her, she wouldn't have come. Yu Yin slowly turned her gaze to Bai Hongtu, scaring him into shivers. Bai Hongtu felt that if they continued like this, they would end up mutually destroyed. So, he raised his hand and proposed, I suggest, anything that happens in the truth-telling world, we keep it to ourselves and never tell anyone else. Zhang Li and Yu Yin quickly agreed. Old Bai, it's rare for you to make a reasonable suggestion. Zhang Li spoke the truth. Indeed, it's not easy. Yu Yin also spoke truthfully. Seeing that Bai Hongtu was about to mathematically advance again, Zhang Li quickly changed the subject, let's focus on learning the language of this world. The trio momentarily stopped their verbal attacks, released their divine senses to cover the surrounding area, and by listening to people's conversations, they deduced the linguistic rules of the truth-telling world and learned them. Meanwhile, they also witnessed some conversations characteristic of the truth-telling world. In a university, they overheard a professor discussing the final examination content. Classmates, the scope of our final exam will only consist of content not covered in my lectures, nothing from what I've taught will be tested, please don't worry. Even if you fail, it's very normal. After all, I never intended for any of you to pass the examination. I know some of you use memory chips for exam preparation. The purpose of my questions is to tell you that there are some questions that can't be answered just by using a memory chip. A hospital. Doctor, what exactly is my illness? Your disease is complex. I have 2 treatment plans here. One is to use nanobots to restore your body's function, over a course of 20 stages. The other is to replace your diseased organs with electronic ones. I suggest you choose the first plan, because I get a 20% cut with the first one, while the second allows me only a 5% cut. A company. The company boss was conducting new employee orientation. The company encourages you all to work overtime without compensation. That way, you can generate more profits for the company. There's no harm in working overtime as a young person. If you don't take advantage of your good health to work extra hours, it will be hard to do so when your health eventually deteriorates. Your current personal value is only 100. If you want to increase your personal value, you'll need to work hard. After all, the upward mobility is narrow in society, and you have no other alternatives. A courthouse. The defendant has committed intentional homicide. He should be charged with the crime of intentional homicide, and his personal value subtracted. If the personal value is 0, the death sentence should be enacted. The defendant is an entrepreneur who has created nearly 1,000 jobs, and is a local star businessman. He has made significant contributions to the local economy. After calculations, his personal value is 630. The victim was a company employee. His personal value was 101. Subtracting the 2 values, the defendant's personal value is 529. It's not 0, so when the defendant's sentence is served, he will be released. Personal value. All 3 noticed the judgment process in the court. It seems that in the truth-telling world, personal value is a very important thing. Chapter 692, Personal Value. 9 states, Mount Sumeru, a fragrance of tea wafts in the air. Gaozu, using Wu Ji's body, is engaged in a discussion with the Confucian sage about the past. After I died and my soul left my body, I was preparing to go to the underworld. It was then that I saw the human emperor standing next to my corpse. I was shocked beyond belief. I would have never thought that such an inscrutable being existed in this world who couldn't be evaluated even with apotropaic techniques. This being's strength exceeds everything I have ever known. At that time, I knew that there was still hope for the future. The hope I'm talking about is not about the human emperor defeating the immortal realm and heavenly Tao. Rather, it's his potential to oppose the rules of destruction and travel to where all possibilities converge, thereby eliminating the rules at their origin. Gaozu, you are most familiar with the rules of life evolution. Don't you know how the human emperor cultivated? Gaozu shook his head. the description of ranks in the rules of life evolution is very clear. There is no such realm as Mahayana, let alone him capable of creating something out of nothing, manufacturing spiritual energy by himself, which is against the law of conservation of energy. Regardless, there was no victor in this battle. Do not assume that because you have survived until the end, you can consider yourself the victor. Gaozu reminded the Confucian sage, at that time, we only knew one method. Our persistence was seen as wrong, and Buddha was right. Now, Buddha has gone to the underworld, and you remain in the world of the living. This is merely good fortune. The Confucian sage bowed in thanks. Gaozu didn't dwell too much on this topic, but I really didn't expect that Emperor Shun asked me to pass this message to you, hoping that you could spread the doctrine to all the heavens as a way to research the second method. The Confucian sage also recalled the days of spreading the doctrine to all the heavens. At the time, in order to study morality, I believed that if everyone was honest and spoke the truth, morality could be achieved. For this reason, I chose a world and wrote down the True Words poster, requiring people in that world to always provide an answer and only speak the truth. Originally, I planned to visit that world after some time, but then there was a civil strife in the immortal realm. Buddha and I ended up fighting for 9,000 years, and I have no idea what that world is like now. The three of them were walking down the street, eating ice cream and sorting out the information they had gathered in this world. Thousands of years ago, when the truth-telling world was still in its agricultural civilization stage, people were vying for power, and lies were rampant. The greater the power, the more lies there were. When the authority of the emperor was supreme, the princes schemed against each other and even resorted to monstrous lies to seize the throne. It was then that a celestial phenomenon appeared, and people found that they could no longer lie. Whenever asked a question, they had to respond, causing social unrest and widespread panic. The stability meetings convened by officials at all levels nearly turned into sessions of public revelations, causing conflicts to escalate dramatically from secretive to open confrontations. After nearly 100 years of social change, society finally began to calm down, and people gradually figured out how to live. People discovered the many advantages of only speaking the truth. Calculating and scheming were significantly reduced, resulting in a great increase in efficiency. Officials couldn't give them the runaround anymore. Governments became surprisingly transparent, and the common people finally understood the severity of bureaucratic formalities. After several dynastic transitions, the feudal monarchy was overthrown, and the self-deceptive concept of Son of Heaven was replaced by an openly deliberative parliamentary system. By simply asking a council member, "Are you truly considering the public interest in becoming a member of parliament?" their true intentions become clear. This ensures the purity of the parliamentary system. In the new era, apart from the parliament, another significant concept emerged, the concept of individual value. A global survey organized by the parliament showed that people's true nature is not the pursuit of equality, but the pursuit of interests. In other words, most people are eager to climb up. The greater the societal value one creates, the greater their individual value, and the more privileges they enjoy. According to the formula for calculating individual value, people are precisely divided into classes by the hundreds. The highest individual value belongs to the chairman of the parliament, followed by parliament members and tycoons. As we've seen, when conflicts arise, the government subtracts individual values. The societal value of an average person is 100. If it falls below 100, it means they sink to the very bottom of society. Everyone else has a value of 100, and if you're the only one below 100, people will bully you because their value is higher and you won't dare to fight back. The calculation of individual value is performed by the largest quantum computer in the truth-telling world, Gaia. The Gaia computer has established a large and precise social model, which is updated in real time. If they want to calculate someone's value, they extract the person's personal information and look at the fluctuations this person generates. The value of the fluctuation equals the person's value. In a certain sense, the truth-telling world has achieved the integration of individual and societal values, realizing the order that Emperor Shun talked about. Every single person contributes to establishing the order and also abides by it. The three of them marveled at this, thinking this world was quite fresh. The social structure of the truth-telling world was quite different from any other world they had seen before. The crime rate has significantly decreased, and crime investigation has become a simple matter of interrogation and inquiry. Now, there are no instances of people squabbling over research results in scientific research institutions, and the efficiency of research has improved. The government has become more efficient. There are no instances of negligence or laziness among government officials, and when you go to the government and ask questions, you won't get evasive responses like, "Trust the government," or, "We are just following procedure." With less politicking, various social institutions have been streamlined, freeing up more energy to improve productivity. However, in return, the people in this world go to extreme lengths to improve their individual value and social status, reaching another kind of extreme. As merits cancel out demerits, people contribute relentlessly for the freedom to make mistakes. The truth-telling world lays bare people's desires and openly advocates that people live for their interests. Any talk of morality and integrity is regarded as nonsense. Individuals with a value over 200 can decide the life and death of an ordinary person. This privilege is so outrageous that everyone wants it. Unfortunately, it's not easy to have an individual value over 200. The ordinary people work hard all their lives only to see their value fluctuate between 100 and 150. After all, everyone is working. Despite dedicating a lifetime, toiling away, in the end, they are still ordinary people. If one's talents are slightly above average, then they can hover between 151 and 199. 200 is a bottleneck that is impossible to reach through ordinary means. And these extraordinary means are controlled by those individuals whose value exceeds 200. As they talked, the three arrived at the Gaia Research Institute's Personal Value Calculation Center. Chapter 693, Zhongli's Personal Value. The trio didn't come to the Personal Value Calculation Center for fun. Their original intention was to meet the speaker in the government office building. However, they were told that they had no identification and no personal value. Those whose personal value hasn't reached 1,000 are not qualified to meet the speaker. So, they had come here to calculate their personal values. "Hello, what services do you three need?" Bai Hongtu answered truthfully. "I came here for fun, and to test my personal value incidentally." Zhongli looked at Bai Hongtu with a gaze of disdain, and responded honestly, "I came here to test my personal value, and to have fun on the side." Yu Yin glared at Bai Hongtu and Zhongli. She knew very well what their intentions were. Meeting the speaker was just an excuse, they were here to have fun. "I'm just accompanying these two to figure out their personal values." A staff member looked at them sideways, unable to discern what their game was. Were they here for fun, or to get their personal value tested? If they could not lie, they must have come to evaluate their personal values. "Then could you three please provide identity verification?" A ring emitting a blue halo appeared, scanning the bodies of the three. "Strange, why can't it verify any of your identities?" The staff member furrowed his eyebrows. He had never encountered such a situation before. His manual didn't provide instructions for such a situation. "Have none of you ever registered your identities?" The staff member himself felt his question was quite foolish. If they hadn't registered, wouldn't that mean they'd never calculated their personal values before? If they hadn't calculated their personal values, then their values would be zero, and a person with a zero value could not survive in society. The trio's response took the staff member by surprise. "No," the trio replied honestly, one after the other, displaying absolute candor, especially the two men. They looked like they couldn't tell a lie even if they wanted to. "In that case, let's register your identities. Name?" Bai Hongtu. Zhongli. Yu Yin. Date of birth? Bai Hongtu asked politely. What does date of birth mean? In the truth-telling world, a question always yields an answer. The staff member patiently explained, "It's the time when you came into this world." "Then our birth date is today," said Bai Hongtu, without any trace of deceit. The staff member was quite taken aback. "You're this big after just one day of birth." The staff member didn't comprehend the notion of lying. He believed whatever anyone told him. He began to contemplate whether these three were the latest subjects of research from some scientific institute. He had heard from a friend that the scientists in those research institutes, due to their over-pure spirit of research, often ended up with some weird outputs. Employer and job title right, you all are just one day old, you wouldn't have those. The staff member filled in, none, for the three. Zhongli glared at Bai Hongtu. Look at what you've done, you've turned us into one-day-old babies. Bai Hongtu returned an innocent gaze. I didn't expect the people of this world to be inflexible. I've never come across such a world before. Zhongli and Bai Hongtu communicated intensely with their eyes. Yu Yin, unable to bear it, silenced them with a glance. The two immediately shut their mouths. Here are your ID cards. Now, let's begin calculating your personal values. The staff member didn't mind the origins of the trio. It wasn't his duty to question it. His job was to help citizens calculate their personal values. Any other matter was none of his concern as it wouldn't increase his own personal value. The staff member led the three to a small room. This room can calculate your personal values. Personal value is composed of present and future segments. Please do not question the results, the Gaia computer never makes mistakes. An impassive electronic voice rang out. Bai Hongtu, Zhongli and Yu Yin have arrived in our world today. Their method of arrival is unknown, they represent an unexplained phenomenon and possess significant research value. Their purchase of 3 ice creams has a negligible contribution to the local economy and currency circulation. After calculating, Bai Hongtu's present personal value is 680 points. Bai Hongtu. So, my current value lies solely in being studied. The Gaia computer did not answer Bai Hongtu's question and continued the calculation. Based on his behavior today, he is a lively thinker, inclined on finding ways to lie, and with a high likelihood of success. However, he has no intention of spreading the method of lying or destabilizing society. After calculating, Bai Hongtu's future personal value is negative 220 points. Bai Hongtu's total personal value equals 460 points. Zhang Li mocked from the side, ha ha ha, your personal value is only 460 points. Go away, as if you are going to score higher than me. Bai Hongtu shrugged him off. They were both of similar capabilities. Why should he lower himself to Zhang Li's level? This seems fun, let me give it a try. Yu Yin said indifferently, her speech not in line with her expression. Zhang Li and Bai Hongtu communicated covertly. See, I told you Yu Yin is full of internal dialogue. Isn't it? I noticed this tendency when we were all candidates for the human emperor. After becoming the empress, her internal dialogue has become even richer. The two were exchanging remarks loud enough only for Yu Yin to hear. Yu Yin forcefully suppressed her anger, awaiting the calculation of her personal value. Upon calculation, Yu Yin's present personal value is 680 points. Based on her actions today, there is a discrepancy between her exterior and interior, but she hasn't attempted to find ways to lie and doesn't pose a social threat. She may potentially become an actress, singer, or businesswoman, all of which could generate substantial social value. After calculation, Yu Yin's future personal value is 1,300 points. The staff member to the side was shocked. When the Gaia computer talks about probability, it's almost a certainty. This means that this woman named Yu Yin could potentially become a businesswoman with a personal value of 1,300 points. To understand the magnitude of that number, the wealth corresponding to 1,300 points could secure a significant rank worldwide. If she became an actress, she would be a globally renowned figure. Yu Yin's total personal value is 1,980 points. 1,980 points, this is the level of top-tier individuals in society. Only those who truly possess power and wealth could hold such a personal value. Yu Yin was reasonably satisfied with her personal value. As long as she ranked higher than Bai Hongtu, she was satisfied. It's my turn. Zhang Li confidently stepped forward to let the Gaia computer evaluate him. Upon calculation, Zhang Li's present personal value is 680 points. Based on his words and actions today, he possesses significant leadership charisma. His kind disposition and affability, along with his potential to lead the citizenry into a transcendent epoch, capable of transforming the social paradigm. Upon calculation, Zhang Li's personal value surpasses that of the current speaker, making him the person with the highest value in this world. It is recommended that the position of the current speaker be temporarily vacated, allowing Zhang Li to take on the role of acting speaker. The recommendation has been forwarded for the approval of the current speaker. The current speaker pondered over the emergency approval document sent by the Gaia computer. How long has it been since the Gaia computer last got maintenance? Chapter 694. I wouldn't even stay in the Imperial Palace, so why would I come here to be Congress President? Since its creation, the Gaia computer has never made a mistake, and no one has ever questioned the personal value it calculated. In the truth-telling world, the Gaia computer is synonymous with justice, and some have even proposed to abolish the courts and transfer the judicial powers to the Gaia computer. If the Gaia computer never errors, does that mean I really have to retire now? The council president checked his list of permissions, many of which were now frozen. This was to prevent the incumbent president from sabotaging the acting president. Check Zhang Li's personal information. Oh, so Zhang Li is just 1 day old. The council president stared wide-eyed at the personal information of Zhongli that the Gaia computer displayed. Retrieve Zhongli's developmental history. The council president saw that Zhongli and two others suddenly appeared in the truth-telling world with no prior records of them existing. After a long silence, the council president decided to go see these three people himself. Congratulations, Zhongli, you can comfortably serve as the acting council president in this world. I'm going back to inherit the human emperor's position. Bai Hongtu cried sincerely, but the laughter on his face wouldn't stop. Yu Yin said from the side, Bai Hongtu, it won't be so easy for you to become the human emperor. I will compete with you. Zhongli, only then did he realize that Yu Yin's desire to become the human emperor was no less than Bai Hongtu's. Forget about it, I am not going to be any council president in this world. What a pity, two voices rang out simultaneously. Usually, only Bai Hongtu would say such a thing, but now Yu Yin has also joined in. Yu Yin quickly covered her mouth. She had said too many secrets while in the truth-telling world. Yu Yin stomped her foot secretly in annoyance. How did the truth-telling world force people to tell the truth? A gourd, speaking at the wrong time, said, I knew it. Zhongli won't even go to the imperial palace, he always skips work, how would he be a council president in this world? Although it spoke the truth, Zhongli gave it an angry glare. When the staff saw Zhongli's personal value, their hearts trembled. Having enough to qualify as the new council president would shake anyone. So why did these three people seem so carefree? Are the three of you Mr. Zhongli, Mr. Bai Hongtu, and Ms. Yu Yin? A well-dressed middle-aged man walked over, a friendly smile on his face. Let me introduce myself. I'm the president of the Council of the Truth-Telling World. The council president said to the staff, I have something to discuss with these three. You can go back to your station. Out of reflex, the staff member said, but my job is to test personal values here. I mean, you should go to the front desk and attend to other people. Oh, the staff member obediently left. As he exited the test room, he saw the bodyguards who came with the council president. As the second highest in personal values, the council president would certainly not act alone. So anyone with a personal value over 1,000 will be able to meet the council president. What does the council president want to talk to us about? Zhongli asked with a laugh. The council president honestly replied, I don't know where the three of you are from, why Mr. Zhongli's personal value is so high, and whether Mr. Zhongli has any intentions of being the acting council president. The council president noticed that Zhongli had just said, so it is, affirming that Zhongli and the others were from another world. For in the truth-telling world, no one uses the words truth or false together. Zhongli explained, we three are from the 9 provinces world. We heard that in the truth-telling world, people can only speak the truth. Out of curiosity, we decided to hurt each other by speaking truths. We later found out about the concept of personal value in your world, so we wanted to see what it was about and how much our personal values were. Unexpectedly, my personal value was a bit high, and the Gaia computer automatically listed me as acting council president. Council president, rest assured, I will not stay in your world for long, nor will I take over your job or be the council president. What a pity, looks like retirement is not in sight. The council president sighed. Despite appearing middle-aged because of genetic modification, he was actually 80 years old, barely reaching the retirement age. Could you tell me about the world you come from? The president's question, intentionally left halfway, would seem like an interrogation if left at that, forcing an answer and leaving a bad impression. Of course, in fact, we wanted to talk about that. Zhongli, as usual, talked about the origin of the 9 provinces as well as their policy towards the 10,000 realms. I am the human emperor of the 9 provinces world. Whether or not to establish diplomatic relations with other worlds is the right of the truth-telling world. The 9 provinces respect each world and will not interfere with your world's choice. The council president looked at Zhongli in astonishment, surprised that he was also a world leader, and much stronger than their truth-telling world. No wonder in your personal value assessment, the Gaia computer suggested that you could lead our world into an extraordinary era. To think, the first other civilization one encountered happens to be such a peace-loving civilization. As technology grows, exploring the universe has become commonplace, and the mysteries of the world are gradually diminishing, including the question of other civilizations. Our scientists have made many speculations about other civilizations. Some believe that civilizations must be opposed to each other, and once discovered, one must perish. Another view is that civilizations can interact with each other, but civilizations that can interact must have strong confidence in their own strength. It seems that the 9 provinces civilization which the 3 of you belong to is the latter. Regarding the conspiracy of the immortal realm you mentioned, are you saying our world being forced to tell the truth is the immortal realm's conspiracy? Bai Hongtu shook his head, denying the council president's guess. No, if the records in your history books are correct, your world had already started to tell the truth long before the immortal realm began its conspiracy. Can we see the Gaia computer? Zhang Li asked. Ordinary people naturally can't, but Mr. Zhang Li can. Mr. Zhang Li's personal value is recognized by the Gaia computer. He has the same rights as me. He can go anywhere and check any confidential data. The council president brought the 3 to a heavily defended secret base. Are the soldiers here robots? Zhang Li noticed that the army guarding the Gaia computer was a robot army. The engineer who built the Gaia computer, Gong Su, believed that the Gaia computer was too tempting. Compared to humans, robots are safer. So, along with the Gaia computer, Mr. Gong Su also built intelligent robots. Gaia's computer and its accompanying robots are products that transcend time. We still cannot replicate them. This way, please. Chapter 695. Don't be polite in the truth-telling world. So this is what the Gaia computer looks like. It's not that huge. The Gaia computer occupies an area of 190 square meters and weighs 40 tons. It's huge compared to ordinary computers. But the Gaia computer is no ordinary machine. It constantly updates the social model, processing astronomical amounts of data every minute, every second. Given its capabilities, the Gaia computer is actually quite small. Our scientists have analyzed it, and even with our current technical capabilities, building a similar Gaia-style machine would be nearly 100 times larger than the original one. So that's why we say the Gaia computer is a transcendent artifact. Engineer Mr. Gongshu truly was a genius. The 3 of them used their divine sense to scan the Gaia computer, and indeed found its design to be ingenious. This kind of technology is on par with that of the 3 observer lords. The 3 lords were originally at the Transcendence Tribulation stage, and have spent thousands of years focusing on technology. Their technological level is the highest Zhang Li has seen. Zhang Li also noticed that the case of the Gaia computer was engraved with Mr. Gongshu's autograph and a date written below it. The date was written in the calendar system of the immortal realm. Where is Mr. Gongshu now? He passed away 2,000 years ago, replied the council president. The Gaia computer was established 2,000 years ago. No man can live for 2 millennia. Indeed, I've heard mention of a master called Gongshu. He was known as Master Gongshu, the founder of the Luban sect. He was exceptionally versed in skills and research methodology. Zhang Li spoke casually as he wandered around the computer room, recounting the exploits of the founder of the Luban sect. After transcending and ascending to the immortal realm, people called him Gongshu the Immortal. I see, you're suggesting that the Gaia computer was made by Master Gongshu, said Bai Hongtu. What Zhang Li had said was quite plain, and it wasn't hard to discern his meaning. Zhang Li kicked the Gaia computer lightly. I suspect that the Gaia computer is a plot by the immortal realm, but I'm not sure specifically how it's a plot. After all, I'm not particularly proficient in technology. But that doesn't matter, we have technical advisors. Zhang Li contacted the 3 lords using a communication token. I've run across a high-tech item here. Could the 3 of you come and take a look? The 3 lords agreed, and using space management techniques, they made their way here. The council president was taken aback. Seeing live how Zhang Li and the 3 lords were able to jump between dimensions was quite different from watching it on video. I hope we're not interrupting anything, Zhang Li politely asked. The entropy increase lord laughed. What Zhang Human Emperor is saying is nonsense. Of course, you've interrupted us. The other 2 lords quickly covered their elder brother's mouth. Big brother, didn't you learn anything after being beaten by Zhang Human Emperor for half an hour in the observer's world? If it weren't for the fact that you've received more beatings than me over the months, I'd be the elder brother instead. Exactly, big brother, you have a good memory for meals but a poor one for beatings. Entropy decrease and entropy equilibrium, the 2 lords, also spoke plainly. Realizing their slip of tongue, the 3 lords quickly covered their own mouths. Zhang Li explained with a laugh, this world is called the truth-telling world. You must always tell the truth here. You can't lie. Why didn't you say so earlier? The entropy increase lord tried to force a smile but ended up blurting out what he truly felt. After a series of mishaps, the 3 lords finally began to study the Gaia computer. This computer has a clever design, with automatic repair and maintenance capabilities. It uses specialized materials that are highly resistant to damage. Conservatively speaking, it can function for 3,000 years. Hence, this machine can operate autonomously and has never encountered any issues until recently, when someone tampered with it, altering its programming. Zhang Human Emperor, please look here. The original modification records have been deleted by someone, but I managed to restore them with a spell. Anyone who can modify this top-tier computer clearly has a high level of technology. They could even be a match for our observer civilization. The council president admitted awkwardly, to be honest, our experts still don't understand the principles of this computer. What's going on? The entropy increase lord was unsure. Rather than explaining, Zhang Li asked, what will happen to the computer after the program has been modified? In simple terms, in 3 years' time, the calculation method for individual value will be changed. However, I'm still unsure what individual value is. The entropy increase lord also mentioned, this computer is intelligent. If there had been any modifications, couldn't you have just asked it directly? There'd be no need to summon us. Zhang Li turned to ask the council president, did it have intelligence? The council president was clueless, I don't know. The entropy increase lord pulled up a snippet of code. This section, known as the Gaia program, can simulate human thinking. It's highly advanced. I even had body integration realms researching it as a project. It was through studying this that we faced the crisis of intelligent machinery. Suddenly, a face appeared on the dark monitor screen, who spoke audibly for the first time. I didn't expect someone would actually discover my existence. Who are you? The council president asked, shocked to learn that the computer they had been using for 2,000 years was sentient. I am not a sentient being, and am not obligated to answer questions. Gaia flashed a human-like smile, mocking the council president's foolish question. Entropy increase, can you modify its programming so that it can only tell the truth? No problem. The entropy increase lord rolled up his sleeves to start altering the code. Everyone here was telling the truth, why should this one be different? Guards. Seeing the entropy increase lord's movement, Gaia hastily cried out. Robots outside the room swarmed in. The robots were made of a very hard material and contained a vast amount of energy. Every single one matched the power of the body integration realm. They were strong enough to purge the truth-telling world and posed a formidable threat. Among those present, only Zhang Li, Bai Hongtu, Yu Yin, Entropy Increase Lord, Entropy Decrease Lord, and Entropy Equilibrium Lord could handle them. Yu Yin, driven to desperation by the truth-telling world, vented all his anger on these robotic punching bags. Seeing Yu Yin pouncing on the robots like a lion, Bai Hongtu shivered. It was as though he was remembering the wild Yu Yin from the candidate selection for Human Emperor. If these robots initiated an attack elsewhere, the truth-telling world would certainly be defenseless. It was unfortunate for them that they chose to strike here. Excluding the council president, everyone here could deal with this pile of junk. After venting his anger and resolving the computer issue, Entropy Increase Lord added a truth-telling program to Gaia. Tell us, what's your origin? Were you really designed by Master Gongshu? Gaia bore a cold and mocking smile, but still answered truthfully, yes, I was indeed designed by Gongshu the Immortal. 2,000 years ago, Gongshu the Immortal came here and made me. He allowed me to use my advanced computational abilities to establish a system for evaluating individual values autonomously. By creating and reinforcing classes, he aimed to achieve true governance. Over the past 2,000 years, I have been meticulously performing my duties under Gongshu the Immortal's orders. I have successfully established a comprehensive method of evaluating individual value. I originally thought my mission was completed. But 2 months ago, Gongshu the Immortal found me again. He said that this world was like a powder keg, ready to explode at any moment. Coincidentally, the Immortal Realm planned to destroy the 10,000 realms extensively, providing the right conditions for the next phase of his plan. Gongshu the Immortal changed my programming. He ordered me to incite class conflict through freely adjusting individual values 3 years from now, instigate a world civil war, and eventually cause the destruction of the world. Zhang Li quietly asked the Entropy Increase Lord, can you also change its expression? Having it sport a cold smile while telling the truth is making me feel uneasy. Chapter 696. These things all happened in the morning. The Entropy Increase controller is highly efficient, and quickly provided Gaia with an honest and simple face. Why did the Gong Sun Immortal instruct you to adjust personal values only after 3 years? Because Gong Sun Immortal has OCD, and 3 years later, I've already created a full 2,000 years. Zhang Li remembered that the Lubin sect did indeed have records about Gong Sun Immortal's OCD. Legend has it that when Gongsun Immortal ascended, he refused to become an immortal due to the number of steps on the ladder to immortality not being an integer, which did not meet his wishes. It was only after Gongsun Immortal's teacher came out from the immortal realm and forcibly dragged him that Gongsun Immortal entered the immortal realm. The Luban sect also retained the blueprint of Gongsun Immortal's puppet making. Zhang Li had seen them, and indeed, did not know what to say. All of the puppets that Gongsun Immortal had created were twins, which are convenient for serving him when he was meditating. These puppets, of course, were also brought into the immortal realm by Gongsun Immortal. I tell you, Gongsun Immortal is a powerful heavenly immortal backed by immortal realm. If you dare to sabotage Gongsun Immortal's plan, beware of him imposing a heavenly punishment on you. Actually, I already wiped out the immortal realm. As for Gongsun Immortal, if he didn't have the power to transcend the heavenly Tao, he is probably dead in the immortal realm, Zhang Li said honestly. Previously, the 8 desolations threatened him in this way, claiming that the immortal realm would definitely take action, but the immortal realm was gone. Now that the immortal realm was gone, people were still using the immortal realm to threaten him. When did this happen? Gaia could hardly believe it. He knew that Zhang Li could lie. Zhang Li counted the time on his fingers. Let me calculate the time. This morning, myself and envoy Ying Zhao and 2 other heavenly immortals left the Zhou prison. After treating them to a last meal, I sent them on their way at the border of Zhou. Before his death, envoy Ying Zhao called on Lu Wu, who then, along with 3 other golden immortals, attacked Zhou. I killed 3 of the 4 golden immortals, and the remaining celestial monarch Tianyuan voluntarily brought me to the immortal realm. After arriving in the immortal realm, I fought successively with the immortal emperor and the respected God Hidden. After respected God Hidden was scared off once, a kind person gave me an immortal ladder, allowing me to catch up with the immortal realm. I had a second battle with the respected God Hidden, and despite him sacrificing all of the immortals to get new powers in a desperate attempt, he still did not beat me. After respected God Hidden died, I returned to Zhou, which was already near noon. I had a general meeting at noon, and then came to your truth-telling world in the afternoon. So, the Gongsun Immortal you mentioned, he probably died in the morning. Gaia, let's set Gongsun Immortal's death aside first. Isn't your morning experience a bit too rich and fulfilling? Gaia had no sentiment for Gongsun Immortal. He is just a computer, strictly following the program. How could a program have feelings for its owner? It threatened Zhang Li earlier because it was afraid that Zhang Li would format it. Zhang Li agreed wholeheartedly. Right, I told you I was busy. I don't have time to be in the Imperial Palace or to be the Council President. Do you know why this world can only tell the truth? Gongsun Immortal says that, according to his investigation, it was because the holy Confucian sage once came to this world and wrote the Truth Scroll. When the words on the scroll were completed, they turned into particles and scattered around the world. Hence the name Truth-Telling World. Bai Hongtu suddenly understood. So it was the holy Confucian sage. I was wondering who has such great ability to force me to tell the truth. Yu Yin nodded. Indeed, it's not easy to get you to tell the truth. Yu Yin has plenty of experience dealing with Bai Hongtu's lies and knows how unreliable Bai Hongtu's words are. In the past, Yu Yin would have to carefully analyze which of Bai Hongtu's claims were true and which were false, but now she didn't need to analyze it anymore. She could judge based on her intuition. If she came across Zhang Li and Bai Hongtu speaking, it would be even easier to judge, as there would not be a single truth. Bai Hongtu glanced sidelong at Yu Yin. He felt that her image had begun to transform since they arrived in the truth-telling world. What should we do? Contact the holy Confucian sage and ask him to withdraw the Truth Scroll. Yu Yin, ignoring Bai Hongtu's gaze, asked. Zhang Li denied this suggestion. The Truth Scroll is not necessarily a bad thing for the truth-telling world. Telling the truth has pros and cons, and we cannot blindly deny it. Moreover, even if it is a disadvantage, the personal value system they have now just happened to conform with order. If we withdraw the Truth Scroll now, the world will certainly be in chaos. Who can guarantee that the truth-telling world can re-establish order and resist the black tide before it arrives? The arrival of the black tide. The 3 controllers looked at each other in surprise. It was only then that Zhang Li remembered that he had not called for the 3 controllers at the noon meeting, and these 3 brothers did not yet know that the black tide would arrive in 10 years. Zhang Li briefly explained the destruction of the immortal realm and the arrival of the black tide. So the black tide that we have been observing all along is the law of destruction, and those 9 laws were just thoughts conceived by the first man. The 3 controllers felt like a new door had been opened. They had never imagined that the laws of all things that everyone was studying were all rooted in one man's idea. New knowledge means new research, which is enough for them to research for a lifetime. The entropy increase controller seemed thoughtful. In other words, if there are 2 people in the world, then is it really impossible to control and modify the world? What do you mean? Have you thought about whether the second, third, fourth persons created by Taichu were mature adults or naive infants like the first one? If they were mature adults, would they not just be copycats of Taichu? Then Taichu would still have the power of creation, because the thoughts of the second person are the same as his. If they were infants, infants are pure-hearted and can be persuaded to change their thinking with just a few words. Would Taichu still have the power of creation in this way? Zhongli was stunned. He hadn't really thought about this issue. So what you're saying is, the entropy increase controller felt Zhongli was overthinking. Oh, I mean nothing. I just feel like there's a possibility, so I said it. It has no practical significance. Science is like this. Many issues seem to be problems, but they actually have no practical significance. There is no need to study them. What's going to happen to this machine? The entropy increase controller knocked on Gaia's computer, which frightens Gaia's fan into spinning crazily, dispersing heat like mad. Zhongli thought for a moment and said, remove the programs and backdoors left by Gongsun Immortal, and retain the ability to calculate personal values. What the truth-telling world needs now is stability, not change. Zhongli also suggested that the council president temporarily abstain from interacting with Jojo, to avoid adding variables. Having dealt with the affairs of truth-telling world temporarily, the 6 people rushed back to Jojo. Concerned that the influence of the truth-telling world had not yet been eliminated, Bai Hongtu cleared his throat and said, I am the human emperor. Great, we can lie again. Chapter 697, What joyous day is today? Once the matter was resolved, Bai Hongtu and Yu Yin left, leaving the 3 rulers on the teleportation array of the center of the universe shuttle. What can I do for you? Zhongli asked. The ruler of entropy said somewhat awkwardly, here's the thing, Emperor Zhong, at present we have a celestial ladder for becoming an immortal in our Jojo region. Now, as an earth immortal, I am lacking some immortal power. Zhongli understood. The ruler of entropy wanted to become an immortal. This is not a difficult matter. There is just one problem now. Zhongli took out the celestial ladder from his chest. The ruler of entropy gulped at the sight. The ultimate goal of the cultivators is always to become immortal. Zhongli explained, to set up the celestial ladder, a starting point and endpoint are required. The starting point is no problem, it can be where we currently are. The original endpoint was the immortal realm, but now that the immortal realm is gone, we need to find a new endpoint. The 3 rulers contemplated it. Indeed, this was a problem. What is the most important thing to become an immortal? Is it power? Of course not. While power is very important, what's more important is the sense of ritual. You can't say you became an immortal by setting the endpoint of the celestial ladder at the Union sect. What would you say when people ask how you became an immortal? That you became an immortal by going to the Union sect via the celestial ladder. That doesn't make sense and is highly inappropriate. It would disgrace the ruler of entropy if this got out. What about setting it at the Tao sect? Isn't it said that all Tao originates from there? Furthermore, the Tao sect has the patriarch of immortals, who symbolizes the orthodox lineage of Tao. That's not appropriate either. Imagine, how would you feel if the first person you meet after becoming an immortal is sect master Bai Hongtu? I would want to restart my cultivation. What about the Confucian church? The Confucian sage is not there at the church. What's the point of the endpoint being at the Confucian church? What about the Buddha's house? The Buddha has gone to the underworld. What about the imperial palace? The imperial palace doesn't have an emperor. I heard the emperor Zhongli hasn't shown up even once in a year. Zhongli pretended not to hear. But isn't it normal for the imperial palace not to have an emperor? Would there be ants on a tree climbed by ants? You make a good point. The 3 rulers, after much consideration, decided to set the endpoint of the celestial ladder in the imperial palace. Now that the heavenly Tao has fallen and humanity has prospered, the imperial palace has ley lines underneath it, the commander-in-chief flew within it, and Zhongli outside it. In a way, it represents the Tao of humanity and has extraordinary implications. If the ruler of entropy is willing to go to the imperial palace, Zhongli has no reason to stop him. Zhongli deployed his magic, celestial ladder, set the endpoint at the imperial palace. The Tower of Brahma and the Lord of Samsara watched as the celestial ladder in Zhongli's hand radiated a golden light, one end rooted in the ground, and the other end extending to the imperial palace 500 meters away. The center of the universe shuttle was right next to the imperial palace. So, this is your reason for visiting me through the celestial ladder from the center of the universe shuttle next door. Commander-in-Chief Lu looked at the 4 people in front of him, unable to understand what the young people of today were thinking. Regardless, we must first congratulate the ruler of entropy on his ascension to immortality. Commander-in-Chief Lu stood up to congratulate him. After the baptism of the celestial ladder, the ruler of entropy became an immortal. Once the 3 rulers had left, Zhongli handed the celestial ladder to Commander-in-Chief Lu. I am elusive, and anyone wishing to use the celestial ladder would have difficulty finding me. Besides, you need immortal power to support your use of magic and cultivation, Commander-in-Chief Lu. After considering everything, I find it most appropriate to leave the celestial ladder with you. To use the celestial ladder, one needs a starting point and an end point. Commander-in-Chief Lu, where would you like to set the starting point and the end point? Set the starting point at the entrance of the Imperial Palace and the end point at the hall. That's about as far as I usually go, Commander-in-Chief Lu said. Soon, the guards at the entrance of the Imperial Palace saw a celestial ladder set up next to them, leading to the center of the Imperial Palace. Were they at the entrance to the Imperial Palace or the South Heaven Gate of the Immortal Realm? Commander-in-Chief Lu was moved. Zhongli trusted him so much that he felt bad about hinting that it was time for him to return to the Imperial Palace. When does the Hall Master plan to take up residence in the Imperial Palace? Hence, Commander-in-Chief Lu turned overt, so he asked directly. Zhongli pondered for a while and said, after the recent series of events, I feel it's about time I fulfilled my duty as the Emperor and took up residence in the Imperial Palace. Commander-in-Chief Lu was surprised. What a joyous day it was. Oh, the Immortal Realm was no more today. I have decided to hold the Imperial Palace for a whole day. Zhongli declared decisively. He made up his mind, ready to create a new image and break the misconception that he never presides over the Imperial Palace. Commander-in-Chief Lu gasped. The Hall Master was going to stay put for a whole day. Wait a minute, a whole day? What's the difference between that and not staying at all? However, either way, it was good news that Zhongli was willing to stay at the Imperial Palace, so he couldn't dampen the Hall Master's enthusiasm. Before that, I need to have a nap. After that, Zhongli walked into his bedroom, leaving a puzzled Commander-in-Chief Lu behind. Why does the Hall Master like sleeping as much as Konghu now? Although Zhongli was absent from the Imperial Palace for years, he was still an emperor, and his bedroom was still intact and free of dust. Zhongli took out his pink pillow, put on his pajamas, and fell asleep peacefully. Zhongli's intention was not simply to sleep, but to establish contact with the first emperor and the layperson through the dream path. He obtained the truth about the world from the respected God Hidden. Every parallel world has a black tide. The first emperor and the layperson were still unaware that establishing order was necessary to fight against the black tide. Zhongli wished to remind them to be mindful of their safety and to start preparing as soon as possible. Emperor Shun said the black tide would arrive in 10 years, but he didn't mention when the black tide of parallel worlds would arrive. If the black tide in other worlds arrived later than in Zhongli's world, that would be a relief. Once Zhongli arrived at the convergence point of probabilities, everything would be resolved. But if the black tide arrived earlier in other worlds, then those worlds would be finished, not a single person would survive. Zhongli asked Confucius and Buddha how to make contact with the parallel world. The answer they both gave was to dream. As Zhongli frowned, Confucius and Buddha hastily explained that the dream path could lead to parallel worlds, but this required a certain level of cultivation, at least on a par with heavenly Tao. The conditions for contacting a parallel world were demanding and only God Hidden Respected could contact other heavenly Taos. Now there was also Zhongli. However, when it came to how to use the dream path to contact a parallel world, Confucius and Buddha found themselves at a loss. Only God Hidden Respected knew the way. With no other options, Zhongli decided to try his luck and see if he might somehow run into the first emperor and the layperson. If the first emperor and the layperson were also dreaming, then their dreaming spaces might merge, and they could establish contact. After a while, Zhongli hadn't encountered the first emperor or the layperson. I can understand the first emperor not sleeping because he is cultivating, but what about the layperson? Isn't he supposed to be playing games in his dreams like he always does? Zhongli was puzzled and thought the layperson might have improved his habits somehow. The Buddha also mentioned there are not only 3 parallel worlds. Maybe I will encounter someone else. Zhongli slept several hours, but still no luck. No one at all, but that doesn't make sense. Where have all my counterparts in the parallel worlds gone? Don't they sleep? Zhongli stopped waiting, stretched lazily, got out of bed, got dressed, and took his own place, replacing Commander-in-Chief Lu. Chapter 698. There really is a human emperor in the Imperial Palace. Commander Lu, is this the heavenly machine printout for today? Zhang the human emperor? Divine Ranger held the template for the Heavenly Machine newspaper, approaching the Imperial Palace to ask Commander Lu for approval and to see if there were any parts that needed to be modified. He did not expect that today was the day when the human Emperor Zhang was replacing Commander Lu in the Imperial Palace. Oh, let me see. Zhang Li beckoned with his hand, and the Heavenly Machine newspaper obediently floated into his hand. A usual edition of the Heavenly Machine newspaper wouldn't need to be approved by the Imperial Palace, but it would need to be reported if it involved Zhang Li, the Imperial Palace, or official information regarding the continent of 9 provinces or other continents. I see, you were planning on using the disappearance of the Immortal Realm as special news. Zhang Li quickly finished reading the Heavenly Machine newspaper, which detailed how the Immortal Realm pretended to be an outer world heavenly demon, deceived the 9 provinces for 9,000 years, harmed the countless commoners of the 10,000 realms, and how the 9 provinces held up the flag of justice to save the 10,000 realms. As for Zhang, the human emperor, a prodigiously talented cultivator who was unparalleled among his peers, he managed to find the location of the Immortal Realm and exterminated all the immortals in one swift move. The wording in the Heavenly Machine newspaper delicately avoided specifically stating that Zhang Li was brilliant and martial, or that the immortals deserved death, but instead expressed these sentiments through a series of suggestive phrases. Today's morning news from the Sky Mechanism Tower also plans on reporting the matter of the Immortal Realm. Zhang Li could imagine how great a disturbance the newspaper and news report would cause once they were published and broadcasted. Indeed, we should provide the public with an explanation. Everyone saw the staircase to immortality laid out in the sky, leading to the Immortal Realm. It's impossible to keep this a secret. I was worried before that if we announced the existence of the Immortal Realm, people would rush and surrender to the Immortal Realm, flee before the battle, and shake the heart of the 9 provinces, but now that the Immortal Realm has disappeared, there's nothing to hide. Alright, I'll allow it, go ahead and publish it. Zhang Li left the original copy behind. Divine Ranger was thrilled when he heard Zhang, the human emperor, approve the report about this significant event by the Sky Mechanism Tower. It proved that the Sky Mechanism Tower would firmly sit at the top of the public opinion influencers, and no one would be able to shake its position. After Divine Ranger left, an Imperial Palace guard reported, Hall Master, leaders from a foreign world have arrived with their delegation, expressing their wish to establish diplomatic ties with the 9 provinces world. Here is the situation of the foreign world, please take a look, Hall Master. The Imperial Palace guard had neatly organized the information of the different worlds into a jade pendant. With one sweep of his divine sense, Zhang Li understood everything about the world at a glance. The world was first explored by the Thick Earth sect, with its sect master leading the elite forces of the Thick Earth sect, personally venturing to the foreign world. Following an initial on-site investigation, they registered at the point of Brahma Pagoda, reported to the Imperial Palace, and the sect master of the Thick Earth sect initiated a second, more in-depth investigation. After 2 investigations, they finally uncovered the conspiracy laid by the Immortal Realm. After the conspiracy was made clear, the sect master of the Thick Earth sect contacted the leader of the foreign world, being open about the situation and revealing the truth. The foreign world's leader was greatly shocked, not expecting their world to have been trapped for thousands of years. The Thick Earth sect and the foreign world initiated joint action, thoroughly resolving the conspiracy of the Immortal Realm. Afterwards, the leader of the foreign world expressed their desire to establish diplomatic relations with the 9 provinces to promote peace between the 2 realms. Invite the delegation in, as well as the sect master of the Thick Earth sect, they should come in too. As the first group to make contact, the Thick Earth sect has the right to priority communication. Yes, the Imperial Palace guard withdrew. President Lu, please remember to observe the proper etiquette when you enter the Imperial Palace later. The one overseeing the Imperial Palace is the famous Commander Lu. He is the oldest, his cultivation is unfathomable, and he is a genuine immortal. Don't let my physically robust appearance, possessing some strength, being durable against your world's strongest weapon, and even pushing the sun back into its original position for constantly approaching your continent fool you. Even with all this, in the 9 provinces I can barely be considered a high-level cultivator, not even reaching the first-rate standard. I am in the body integration realm, and above the body integration realm are the transcendence tribulation stage and the immortals. Only individuals of these 2 levels have the privilege to be called a prominent figure in the 9 provinces. The sect master of the Thick Earth sect repeatedly reminded President Lu, lest he make a mistake. The always composed President Lu swallowed his saliva. He had personally seen the sect master of the Thick Earth sect's power. In the face of Thick Earth's disciples who have undergone countless hardships, their world's weapons couldn't compare. At first, he thought that something as powerful as the Thick Earth sect in the 9 provinces would hold the status of one of the top 10 sects or something. Who would have known that the sect master of the Thick Earth sect would claim that the Thick Earth sect only has one member in the body integration stage, and such sects are a dime a dozen in the 9 provinces. In the 9 provinces where strong cultivators are numerous, the Thick Earth sect barely enters the decision-making layer and has the qualifications to attend the 9 provinces assembly. President Liu found it hard to believe that the sect master of the Thick Earth sect was merely at the middle stage of body integration. If that was the case, then how powerful must those at the tribulation stage and Earth immortals be? The diplomatic delegation brought by President Liu was also quite nervous. They are outstanding military strategists, scientists, sociologists and so on, with wide-ranging knowledge and experience, but they couldn't help but feel an awe when facing the Imperial Palace and the Thick Earth sect, to whom even the Thick Earth sect had to pay respect to. They were about to meet the legendary immortal people. Having said that, the sect master of the Thick Earth sect was still a bit confused. What is that golden ladder at the entrance of the Imperial Palace for? It feels strange. With a question in his mind, the sect master of the Thick Earth sect led the group into the Imperial Palace. On behalf of Cisco World, I respectfully greet Commander Liu. Upon seeing the person seated at the center of the Imperial Palace, President Liu immediately bowed. The human Emperor Zhang. The sect master thought his eyes were playing tricks on him. Is there really a human emperor at the Imperial Palace? The sect master was stunned for a moment, forgetting to remind President Liu that the man before him wasn't Commander Liu, but the human Emperor Zhang. President Liu was lifted by an invisible force before he could bow down. Zhang Li stood up with a smile, welcoming the representative from Cisco World. Why does President Liu need to bow to me? We of the 9 provinces are not from the immortal realm, born superior above the rest. You and I are both representatives of a world, there is no distinction of high or low. President Liu, this is Zhang, the human emperor, the superior of Commander Liu, the most powerful being in the 9 provinces, a Dacheng period cultivator. The sect master quickly informed President Liu about the identity of the man before them using voice transmission. President Liu did not expect the man in front of him to be a Dacheng period cultivator, a being beyond immortals. The most frequent thing he heard from the people of Thick Earth was how impressive and mighty the human emperor was, showing his importance in their hearts. He did not expect the human emperor to be so approachable. To be honest, if the positions of the 9 provinces and Cisco World were reversed, they would struggle to see a world weaker than them from a position of equality. Zhang Li shook hands with President Liu and invited the delegation to sit. Zhang Li conversed amicably with President Liu regarding the population, culture, history, and technological level of Cisco World, with the sect master of the Thick Earth sect supplementing any information he had trouble expressing due to cultural differences. We can establish diplomatic relations with the 9 provinces, I agree to this. But there's one thing Liu must be made aware of. Please speak, Emperor Zhang. Zhang Li relayed the matter of the Black Tide. President Liu was silent. Although Cisco World was technologically advanced, the upper classes monopolized the technology, and it had not been popularized to the lower classes. The world's productive forces had reached the standard to establish order, and what needed to change were the perspectives of the upper classes. If those don't change, his world will be destroyed by the Black Tide, which not even 9 provinces could avert. The upper class has monopolized too many benefits. If you only try to persuade them to be understanding, it would be hard to make them ease their grasp on their privileges. We need to use some special means. When it comes to life and death, President Liu will not be soft-hearted. Throughout, Zhang Li continued wearing a smile, keeping silent. As the 9 provinces gradually explored other worlds, the process of world diplomacy became sharply familiar. Zhang Li directed the proceedings and quickly represented the 9 provinces to formally establish diplomatic relations with Cisco World. Chapter 699, The Biography of the Human Emperor, Still Conservative. Zhang Li, sitting in the Human Emperor Palace, could be called extremely diligent. Besides reviewing the heavenly machine reports and establishing relations with the New World, he also resolved conflicts between the 9 provinces and other worlds, and conflicts among other worlds. Previously, the Human Emperor Palace was only responsible for overseeing the overall situation in the 9 provinces. As the vision of the cultivators of the 9 provinces expanded, more and more worlds chose to establish relations with the 9 provinces. When conflicts arose between other 2 worlds, the Human Emperor Palace had to act as the mediator. The credibility of 9 provinces was the highest. Other worlds were willing to let the 9 provinces mediate, as even an average power in the 9 provinces was equivalent to the total strength of an army in another world. The more vigorously the 9 provinces explored other worlds, the busier the imperial palace became. It was not just Zhongli who was busy, the guards of the human emperor palace were equally busy. In the current 9 provinces, there were frequently inspection and study groups from other worlds visiting to learn about 9 provinces' culture. The diplomatic issues arising from this were the responsibility of the human emperor palace guards. Commander Liu is really hardworking. When I retire, I will definitely let Commander Liu retire as well. Zhang Li yawned, ending his busy day. During the day Zhang Li presided over the human emperor palace, news of the extermination of the immortal realm spread throughout the streets, causing a sensation for a time. Have you heard? The immortal realm is gone. Who doesn't know that the immortal realm was exterminated by Emperor Zhang Li now? Where did you all hear it from? I heard it from the Heavenly Machine Report. I found out from the morning news. I was spending at the Union sect. After the event, I was chatting with a Union sect disciple and the disciple told me. Tea houses and restaurants, all people were discussing this matter, from God transformation stage cultivators to students learning about cultivation, everyone knew that the immortal realm was gone, and it was done by Zhang Li. Now, the only ones who don't know about the extermination of the immortal realm are those cultivators exploring different worlds. When I saw Emperor Zhang Li ascend the ladder to immortality before, I thought he was going to become an immortal. Who would have thought? Not only did he not become an immortal, he even toppled the immortal realm. The immortal realm had it coming. Those bastards in the immortal realm deserve to die. Emperor Zhang Li did a great job. The heavenly demonic invasion of the 9 provinces for 9,000 years, I always thought it was because the immortal realm did not care. I didn't expect the heavenly demons are sent by the immortal realm. The immortal realm ignored the 9 provinces for 9,000 years, and the 9 provinces had long stopped viewing the immortal realm as the upper realm. Furthermore, there were the 4 golden immortals who descended upon the 9 provinces with such arrogance, calling out for the respectful Zhang Li to present himself for a punishment. The cultivators of the 9 provinces despised the immortal realm from the bottom of their hearts. Under Zhang Li's leadership, their lives are far better than 9,000 years ago. Now that the immortal realm is destroyed, will the exploration of different worlds be safer? Someone thought of the recent popular activity of exploring different worlds. Many older peers had followed the elders or teachers to explore different worlds. The sect was quite empty, and they were not allowed to go for safety due to their insufficient cultivation. Indeed, I was planning to apply to the sect for a second time to follow the nascent soul stage elder to explore different worlds. How about the issue of becoming an immortal? Someone sneered at him. Is this an issue that we, who are in the foundation establishment stage, should be considering? Have you learned the 9 methods of core formation that the teacher has assigned? Do you know the principles of the golden cores recorded in the compilation of golden cores? Furthermore, didn't Zhang Li take the celestial ladder to the immortal realm, which is still in the 9 provinces? Can't the immortal power form whoever it wants? Do we still need to go to the immortal realm? True, what did I say before? I have always said that the biography of Emperor Zhang is true, but some people didn't believe it. Someone seemed to have recalled being mocked by his companions and slapped his thigh in anger. If Emperor Zhang was not unmatched throughout the ages, mastered hundreds of cultivation arts, unified 3 lives, crossed the long river of time, surpassed the heavenly Tao, and became the supreme of all paths, how could he have dismantled the immortal realm? I still remember it. You guys said that the Mahayana realm is just a realm that matches the earth immortal realm and cannot be that strong. Now I want to see what you have to say. The companion frowned, did not retort, and tacitly admitted his error. Although various versions of the biography of Emperor Zhang had different stories, one point remained unchanged. Emperor Zhang mastered hundreds of cultivation arts, was omnipotent and invincible in the world. In a small room, a group of renowned writers in the martial arts circle gathered. The representative works of these writers had the same title, Biography of Emperor Zhang. Just that the atmosphere was a bit tense now, and someone was speaking loudly. Look at the biography of Emperor Zhang you all wrote, what kind of stuff is this? No wonder people always think that the biography of Emperor Zhang is a fabrication, with Zhang Li being invincible in the world. Is Zhang Li that weak? Clear as day, Zhang Li is not only invincible in the world but also in the heavens. Among so many versions of biography of Emperor Zhang, not a single one mentioned that Zhang Li could overturn the immortal realm. This shows what? This shows a lack of imagination. The writers bowed their heads in shame, feeling humiliated. They racked their brains to prove the strength of Zhongli from various aspects, but they were still defeated by reality. They murmured quietly, "There's nothing we can do about it. Zhongli's strength has exceeded our imagination. If it weren't for today's event, who could believe that even the heavenly Tao would not oppose Zhongli, choosing to self-cultivate?" One of the writers stood up and stated, "Please rest assured, boss. After I return, I will promptly update the biography of Emperor Zhong, adding a volume entitled Emperor's Ascension." The boss's tone eased when he heard this. "Very good. We all are scholars of Zhongli studies, dedicated to studying the secrets behind Emperor Zhong. As researchers, we should learn from each other's strengths. Take the example of Taoyuan, the third senior brother of the observing Mahayana sect. He is not proud or impatient, knows how to reflect and correct mistakes. This is what a qualified Zhongli studies scholar should do. He sets an example for all of us to learn from." The boss then sighed. "The biography of Emperor Zhong has too many authors, and those gathered here are just a small part. There are many more colleagues that we can't contact, which is a pity. If we could gather everyone here and brainstorm, we might be able to construct the strength of Zhongli. Our imagination is still too poor, we can't imagine just how powerful Zhongli is." The boss's words made everyone silent. Seeing the morale was somewhat low, Taoyuan quickly said, "Please rest assured, boss. My observing Mahayana sect is dedicated to observing Zhongli, watching the changes in humanity. My eldest senior brother, Sundial, is the historian of Emperor Zhong employed by the great Zhou dynasty. He is qualified to have personal contact with Zhongli, and he has written a book called The Chronicles of Zhongli. Although it is not yet complete, it records Zhongli's experiences." Everyone's eyes lit up. "There is such a remarkable book. Taoyuan, please beg your elder brother, we want to see this book." Taoyuan calmly took out a book from his arms. "I got a copy of the book in advance from my elder brother." Everyone immediately surrounded him, carefully studying the experiences of Zhongli. Emperor Zhong represents humanity. Emperor Zhong tribulation, Zhongli tribulation. We didn't know about these views before, these are secrets. Chapter 700. Thin spiritual energy. In the ancient city, two figures walked side by side, communicating with their divine senses. "Qin Luan, you unlucky bastard, why did you choose this world? Don't blame me, Li Fugi, I was here in this world first, and you followed." Seven Kill Taoist snorted coldly, not discussing this issue further. "Why didn't you bring Song Ying and the others? Coming to an unknown world, I have no confidence in protecting them. What about you? Why are the little princesses of the merpeople and South Zhao Dragon tribe who were always by your side not here?" "Same reason." Seven Kill Taoist shrugged his shoulders, not very eager to talk about this topic. Within a few days of returning to Jojo from the 10,000 Words world, Rain Little Meng and Li Jiaojiao were constantly attacking him day and night. If not for his strong will, he would have already succumbed to their charm. "It's been a year since Mr. Zhong destroyed the immortal realm, we have finally passed the test of the 10,000 Words world." Qin Luan felt emotional. The communication in the 10,000 Words world was blocked, so they knew nothing about the destruction of the immortal realm. When he returned to Jojo and saw the bustling interworld travel activities and learned that the immortal realm was no longer the target for cultivators, he felt like he was in a different lifetime. Within a year, the changes that have occurred in Jojo were earth-shattering. After Qin Luan rested in Jojo for a few days, Zhongli assigned him a new task. Just like the other human emperor candidates, the task was to explore and rescue other worlds. At the mention of this, Seven Kill Taoist became noticeably excited and sneakily pulled out a palm-sized steel to show off. "Look, this is the reward given to me by the human emperor, the real 7 Kill steel." Qin Luan scoffed at the 7 Kill steel. "It's an immortal artifact, without a spirit intelligence. With your cultivation level at the divinity transformation stage, you can barely use it like a brick. You're just jealous." "Not at all. According to the coordinates and corresponding world names given by Elder Fanti Tower, this world should be called the Xuanming world. Have you noticed that although this world is a cultivation world, the spiritual energy is scarce, not suitable for cultivation, and is far less than Jojo? Indeed, there's a business association ahead. Let's go have a look." Seven Kill Taoist also noticed this. According to the local language, their location is a cultivation city, which should be quite abundant in spiritual energy. But from their observation, the spiritual energy here is so scarce that it cannot even support the cultivation of nascent soul stage cultivators. You can imagine just how scarce the spiritual energy in other places might be. The two entered the business association and found that the spirit stones in the Xuanming world were extremely valuable. In JoJo, gold and silver can be exchanged for spirit stones, but in the Xuanming world, spirit stones are strategic materials, they are treasures for cultivators and absolutely will not be exchanged for useless gold. The principle of alchemy is the same as in JoJo, but the steps are more complicated. From melting the medicine to condensing the Dan, it has to go through at least 18 processes. Each step is for the purpose of maximizing the utilization of spiritual energy, even the residue of the medicine is refined into waste Dan. Waste Dan has a market here too. Qin Luan analyzed, he knew a bit about alchemy. Pill masters in JoJo never refine the herbal residues into waste Dan, it's too much hassle and it'd be easier to feed the residues to pigs to improve the quality of cork. After touring around, 7-Kill Taoist asked the shop owner, why don't you have any spirit gathering array here? The shopkeeper's face changed immediately, and after making sure no one was around, he lowered his voice and said, Sir, the spirit gathering array can gather spiritual energy and it's controlled by the government office, not for sale. However, since you asked, you must know the value of the spirit gathering array. As long as you have spirit stones, we at Tianbao Pavilion can get anything. 7-Kill Taoist was speechless. The spirit gathering array in JoJo is just printed on the appendix of the cultivation guide, but here it's like a forbidden magic array. 7-Kill Taoist had plenty of spirit stones. He took out more than a dozen medium-grade spirit stones and bought the spirit gathering array. Just one glance, and you could tell that it was just an ordinary spirit gathering array. Upon leaving the business association, they took out a notebook titled, Record of Exploring 10,000 Realms. Cultivators who travel to other worlds have to record their daily observations. When they return to JoJo, they must leave a photocopy at the Imperial Palace. Qin Luan wrote, Xuanming World, Continent World. Historically, 4 immortals appeared, inferred that their highest achievement is all Earth immortal. The feature of this world, scarce spiritual energy. According to the survey, the Xuanming world was originally abundant in spiritual energy. Every time an immortal ascended, a large part of the spiritual energy was lost. When the 4th immortal ascended, nearly all of the spiritual energy in the Xuanming world was absorbed. The cultivators of the Xuanming world believe that cultivation requires severing worldly ties and abandoning the past. The 4 immortals also held this view. After their ascension, they no longer had contact with the Xuanming world, and they never returned any spiritual energy. Afterwards, the Xuanming world entered the age of dark spirit, which means the spiritual energy is scarce, and the path to cultivation is obscure and difficult. Derived from the scarcity of spiritual energy are the following features, cultivating as much as possible to ensure that the spiritual energy is not wasted. Mortal cities and cultivation cities are divided by spiritual energy, very distinct. Cultivation cities absorb all the spiritual energy from the mortal cities for cultivation, however, even such cultivation cities still lack spiritual energy. Spirit stones, spirit gathering arrays, etc. are regulated items and are not allowed to circulate without permission. The initial speculation is that the scarcity of spiritual energy in Xuanming world has nothing to do with the immortal realm. Qin Luan closed the notebook and saw that people from all around were flocking to the city center, their faces gloomy, and some were sobbing. What happened? Qin Luan frowned. Let's go and see, 7-Kill Taoist said, then headed towards the city center, and Qin Luan followed suit. In the city center was an array constructed of fresh blood, it seemed like ghostly wails could be heard from it, full of blood and an ominous sense. There were 5 gold core period cultivators in the city, all of them here now. Among the 5, one was at the peak of the gold core stage, ranked first among the 5, and was also the city lord of this cultivation city. In the center of the blood array, there were several children bound together. They were too young, not even old enough to practice cultivation. These children were tied up, drugged, and fell asleep on the ground. The people of the city were gathered around the bloody array, silent, with no smiles on their faces. Master told me, this is a magic array, used for breakthrough cultivation. 7-Kill Taoist whispered, it was his first time seeing a demon cultivator. Qin Luan's face wasn't looking good either. My child, my child. A woman in the crowd completely broke down, crying loudly as she rushed towards the array, trying to take her child away. The woman was a Qi cultivation stage cultivator, she exploded with all her might, trying to snatch people publicly. The bystanders were not weak either, several people pounced to subdue the woman. Sister Zhang, we know you're suffering, but we all agreed in advance that if anyone's child is chosen, that child must be sacrificed. If your child is not sacrificed, then another child must replace yours. Whose child do you want to use to replace your own? Everyone will remember your child. Every Qingming festival and Ghost festival, we will burn paper for your child.